remind me. Okay. All right, it is now 7 o'clock. Today is Monday, June 1st. A little fun fact, next time we meet in July, the days will be getting shorter already.
Thank you.
This meeting is now in order. Jeremy, the roll call, please.
Kenjuk,
Here.
Hauser, Jones, Bachman,
Yes.
Boletich, Campbell,
Here.
Hardin,
Here.
Murphy,
Here.
Stone.
All right, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce our newest Planning Commissioner, Jenna Campbell. She's there on the end. Jenna, would you take a couple of minutes and tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, my name is Jenna Campbell. I'm the owner and director of design of Oak Street Design, a local business here in town. We specialize in architectural design. So we design a lot of buildings, a lot of homes in our town. I'm also a resident here, obviously. We've got 2 young kids living in here, and a 4-year-old boy and a newborn baby girl. So I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. Thank you. All right. Before we get started, I would like to point out that because there are only 5 commissioners today, any vote is going to require a unanimous vote in order for the motion to pass. For those of you that are looking to move on to a public hearing or, have something up for consideration, you'll have the option to postpone a vote if you don't feel that you're going to have a unanimous decision. So keep that in mind as we go through the meeting. Next item on the agenda is public comment. If there's anything anybody would like to talk about that is not on today's agenda, feel free to come on up. I would like to also point out that during considerations, we don't have a public comment. So if you'd like to talk about something under Section 6 of the agenda, I would ask that we do that afterwards in the second public comment section. All right? So anyone would like to come up and talk about something that's on their mind? No? Rose, is there anyone online?
There is no one online.
All right, thank you. All right, then let's move on. Approval of the minutes. Commissioners, are there any changes or anything that you feel are necessary? Mr. Hardin? No. Mr. Bachman? No. Ms. Murphy?
Nope.
And Jenna?
Nope.
All right, then may we have a roll call, please?
We need a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Can we have a motion first?
I'll make a motion to accept the
Second,
minutes.
please. Second. We'll give it to Ms. Campbell. Now the roll call.
Kenjuk,
Yes.
Bachman,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Hardin,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
All right. Item number 5, public hearing. The first one on the agenda today is for 326 Albertson, the GH Longevity Center, site plan and special project review. I see that the applicants are in the audience. Lori, would you like to give us an update?
Sure. It's never been easier than I don't have a mic. Just to make sure.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good idea.
Okay. So, as Mr. Hensig mentioned, this is the public hearing for 322 to 326 Albertson Street, which is the GH Longevity site. This is a proposed health and physical fitness center on what is called a special project site. So just as a reminder, this means that uses outside of the base zoning of the R1 district are allowed. So the purpose of this is to allow that flexibility to find a use that is both compatible with the surrounding area, consistent with the comprehensive plan, but allows for some flexible reuse of the site. Associated with a special project, we do usually use a sustainability worksheet, which has been completed for this evaluation, although, as we've noted in the past, because this site is reusing the building, it's not going to really conform with that worksheet. So if you noticed in your review, it does not meet kind of the threshold, but that's okay. As we've noted in the past, when you're reusing a building, this doesn't really apply well. I've still completed that scoring, though, because I think that they score admirably for the fact that they're reusing a building. So that 9.5 score is actually very good for a small development reusing what already exists. I'm also not going to spend a ton of time going through that review unless you have questions about it, because we generally don't apply it to a use that's reusing the existing building. So this, given that the site's already designated as part of the special project boundary in the master plan, any use may be approved on the site if other criteria are met. So while the Health and Physical Fitness Center generally wouldn't be allowed in the underlying zoning, it is allowed in this situation. The parcels to the southwest are zoned R2 and currently used as a park, so, not a competing use to be associated or to be adjacent to. The proposed project will be using the existing building, which is an existing nonconformity, but it doesn't expand the nonconformity, so it is okay in this situation. It's just something to keep in mind moving forward on the site if any other changes were made, depending on what those changes were proposed as, it is a non-conforming site. You're not meeting all of the dimensional standards. So in the future, if changes were made, that could be something to keep in mind. Site access, pedestrian and bicycle access, sidewalks aren't currently available, although the Pine Creek Trail is just across the street, although a crossing isn't provided. This is just keeping these things in mind in terms of connectivity associated with that sustainability scoring. Within the site, walkways are provided to connect the parking area to the building and the main building with the outbuildings. Vehicular access within the site, there's plenty of room for vehicles to operate safely. Access to the site is currently uncontrolled. Which just means that there's no raised curb, so you can kind of pull in wherever you want, which can increase potential conflict between vehicles and non-motorized users. Given that the intention is to repair the curb in the area, we just recommend considering some additional control, but it's not required by this review. Off-street parking, the plans indicate an off-street parking calculation for the site requiring 1 space per four persons based on the maximum capacity and 1 space per employee on the largest employment shift. So based on the capacity of 56 persons and the maximum number of employees at any given time being 4, 18 spaces would be required on the site. And 18 spaces are provided, including 1 ADA compliant space. Again, it doesn't comply with the parking setbacks. This again is an existing nonconformity that is not being expanded as they're just repaving the existing parking area. For traffic, it is, based on the hours of operation and the fact that this will be in a by appointment only operation, it's not considered to be a concern for the area. Facade and design standards, no specific facade and design standards for the R1 district or for a special project, but it is consistent with other things that we've seen within the DDA, which this is at the edge of. Landscaping screening, the refuse receptacle is being relocated to the western edge of the site, which will be more aesthetic, and there's sufficient screening proposed for the receptacle. However, the ordinance prescribes that the screening should be the same material as the primary structure, a Trex composite material in the same color as the main building as proposed. Screening between a non-residential use and a neighboring residential use is required. Section 2804 technically requires a masonry wall. However, also provides that the Planning Commission has the option to approve dense vegetation. So any approval should specify that you are also approving that, if you so choose to approve that dense vegetation as an appropriate screen between the uses. The landscaping plans preserve the existing tree on the site and add 8 trees as well as several shrubs to provide additional screening to add to the overall site aesthetic. Updated from the previous plan, the lighting is minimal and downward facing, and the photometric plan does not indicate any light trespass, so it's compliant with the ordinance. There's minimal signage proposed. What's there seems compliant, and any additional signage proposed would require administrative approval. And then in terms of the special project consideration, Given that the existing designation of a special project site in the master plan, it's clear that, this seems consistent with the intent of providing for that flexible yet compliant use for the surrounding area. So, as long as all parcels within the proposed project are combined into a single tax parcel, we do recommend approval of the plan as shown.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, does anyone have any questions or comments at this time? Ms. Murphy?
Have a question about the part that says there's a desire to expand appropriate commercial activity into residential areas at the fringe. Whose desire is that?
That was from the master plan.
So what other, where is the edge of the DDA in relation to this parcel?
Believe, off the top of my head, we also happen to have the DDA director here today for other reasons, but I believe it's like at this parcel. It is at the very edge. So this would be kind of like right at that line, and you wouldn't really want to be looking beyond this, but.
Okay. Okay. It's just interesting whose desire it was, I guess.
That was pulled from a goal of the master plan, not necessarily citing it directly, but there are sort of looking at those goals. It's consistent with those, they have not been adopted yet, but those newly proposed districts that we've talked about in the past that kind of expand some of those uses and ideas in the master plan, in the future land use map. So it's not necessarily citing the master plan explicitly, but it was consistent with some of the ideas.
So what would that mean for someone in a residential area who wants to open up a business in their home? Is that, if they're on the edge of the DDA, is that permitted?
That's a very kind of broad topic, is it?
If it's zoned R1, but on the edge of the DDA, is that something that's desirable by somebody that, I mean, are we going to see a creep, I guess, is really my question.
I don't think we have to see a creep, because this is a special project, and that's so that this is specifically providing for that flexibility.
It is a much broader question that I'm asking, that I was surprised to see that, I guess, that.
If you don't mind, I wouldn't lean heavily on it. She read from the master plan, she's 100% right. I wouldn't lean on that. No, we don't want encouraging residents to have occupation. So this is because of the park proximity across from the street, but I wouldn't lean on the reason we're doing this. This is an adaptive reuse of this
Right,
property.
and
It's already industrial. So.
Right, I mean, the DDA does abut more than this residential area. It's abuts a lot of residential areas, but that's not, okay, all right,
Absolutely not.
all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, if the applicant would step forward and if there's anything you would like to add. And then please state your name and address for the record.
Tara Nabity, 1017 Inglewood Avenue, Rochester, 48307.
And Tom Nabity, same address.
And we would like to go through our presentation that we presented to you last month, just so everyone here can see it. I know there's some faces in the crowd we didn't see last month, so we would like to start there. We're very excited to be here this evening and would like to thank the Planning Commission, community, friends, and future neighbors for thoughtfully considering our proposal for a longevity and wellness center within the existing property at 322-326 Albertson.
Yeah, so as of February 23rd of this year, we entered into a purchase agreement with the current property owners, Jeff and Kim Russell. Our intent is to purchase and thoughtfully renovate the property. The completion of the purchase remains contingent upon obtaining the necessary city approval, and that's why we're here tonight.
My husband, Tom, he's my husband and business partner. He's a regenerative and longevity medicine specialist. He will be the medical director of the facility. As longtime downtown Rochester residents, we understand the importance of carefully considering the future of this property and the impact it will have on the surrounding community. This evening, we'll be showing you our plans for the exterior and interior renovations, as well as reviewing the longevity programming being offered at the facility and the impact it will have on the neighborhood and community. So as you can see from the before and after pictures there, this project transforms an existing commercial space into a modern health and wellness facility. The facility will be designed to enhance the beautification of Rochester along with the Pink Creek Trail and add long-term value to the neighborhood. Along with the update to the exterior of the main building, we will also be making updates to the exterior storage shed sitting west of the main building. Our plans include updated paint, black metal roof, new door, update the existing light fixture, and update the landscaping. For the landscaping on the property, our overall goal is to create a cohesive luxury landscape that includes reducing concrete surfaces, incorporating low-maintenance turf and plants that require zero irrigation, decorative planters, evergreen hedging along existing fence lines on the east and north sides of the property, if those are all approved, and exhibit greenery walls on the east and west sides of the building. The greenery walls on the east and west sides of the building will be displayed as a high-end architectural feature. We plan to use maintenance-free, UV-resistant, and fire-rated panels mounted to a frame. We feel the greenery wall will better complement the surrounding landscape and nature of the park. As far as the privacy screening surrounding the property, on the east side of the building, there is an existing 8-foot cedar fence for which landscaping will be updated and maintained. We included a photo of what it looks like now and our goal for what it'll look like after. On the north side of the property, a tree-lined chain-link fence, as well as the building itself provides adequate screening. Landscaping will be updated and maintained throughout. And if you do walk the neighborhood, you cannot see this property unless you turn each corner down the street around the corner. It is very, very secluded. So we do feel like this screening and landscaping is sufficient privacy. The refuse screening, so if you walk onto the property now, you'll see the bin sitting front and center on the property. We plan to move it to the west side of the property out of sight and screened around the refuse. We plan on using high-end, low-maintenance Trex composite for the screening that will match the aesthetic throughout the rest of the property. As mentioned earlier, the exterior lighting surrounding the property will be minimal. Light fixtures will be downward facing and shielded. This will minimize forward-facing spillover and reducing overall light pollution. I am now going to turn it over to Tom, and he is going to be talking about the longevity program within the facility.
So before jumping into pictures and details, like what is longevity medicine? It's kind of a buzzword that's means a lot of different things to different people. So before jumping into what that means, if you kind of use our current term, healthcare, and try to look at it from a lens of prevention, our healthcare system is really designed as a sick care system. If you're sick, you need a place to go. If you rupture your appendix, you get a pneumonia. Like, we need a good quality sick care system. And our training is really designed at treating disease and trying to get people out of their sickness. But it's not really well designed in keeping people well, who are still healthy, who want to stay healthy, who want to age in a healthy manner so they stay active, they stay capable of doing those things that they love to do. And our vision, our goal with this is really to bring that option into Rochester. So it's going to incorporate a lot of testing like you would think of when you're ill, but instead of doing it when you're ill, starting to look at those markers before disease sets in, before you get end organ disease damage, blood markers, gut markers, microbiome markers, testing like VO2 max testing, DEXA scan scores, all of these things that we can establish baselines and then try to improve and then maintain throughout a healthy lifespan. So the facility will, no, there we go, accomplish that by having a great reception lounge area. No, the initial part when you enter the building, part of longevity, one of the main things and important things, if anybody's heard of or followed these blue zone discussions, but community. Community is a huge part of longevity medicine. Having a place for people to gather, to socialize, to interact, to read, maybe pull out a laptop, think about like a shared workspace. That's gonna be part of our facility. So it's not just a reception area where you check in and check out. It's actually a place that should be comfortable, where you can engage in conversation with like-minded individuals. Two of the tests we talked about, one, the DEXA scan is pictured here. It's a best way of getting an assessment of your body composition. So most people know DEXA for its use in looking for bone health and assessing your fracture risk for compression fracture risk. It actually does a lot more if you use it for the settings. It can look at your muscle mass, your fat mass, your bone density mass, and help make calculations as you see maybe no change on the scale, but you're gaining fat, losing muscle. That's something we can intervene with. And the vice versa, where we start interventions and you see fat mass going down, you see bone density going up, you see muscle mass going up. Sometimes the number on the scale actually goes up, but it's a good, healthy mass that you're gaining and you're losing some of the dangerous mass. Maybe one of the biggest things that it measures is something called visceral fat, VAT. That's the fat that hangs around our organs, very highly associated with metabolic disorder, heart disease, cancer, strokes. So things that go beyond our traditional healthcare screening metrics. The other one mentioned here, RMR, it's a breathing device where you exercise on a bike, and you can get, or a treadmill or any other type of exercise, where we can get how well your body exchanges carbon dioxide and oxygen. Another probably maybe the most important longevity marker is watching that VO2 max. And then the resting metabolic rate is how many calories you burn at rest. A great example is you can see your resting metabolic rate going down, and maybe you see your thyroid numbers starting to creep abnormal. Thyroid disease is a major thyroid gland, I guess not calling it disease, but hypoactivity, where it's starting to lose its ability to produce thyroid hormone, can drive that metabolic rate down. It's a big reason why I'm eating the same and I keep putting on weight. I can't understand it, Doc. Well, maybe it's your thyroid. Prescribed movement, a big component of living healthy, long lives, maintaining your balance, maintaining your core strength, maintaining your muscle mass in your lower extremities, as well as your upper extremities. Things that we can develop, prescribe specific exercise movement for you based on your numbers. So maybe one person needs to do more resistance training, another person needs to do more zone 2 training. All of our exercise prescriptions will be just that. We sit down quarterly with our patients, prescribe what the next 12 weeks is going to look like, and then we have our dedicated trainers to see that through. A nice high-end locker room for people to change before and after their movement therapies. And then we get into the recovery center, wellness center. You start thinking about energies and other modality type treatments, contrast therapies. Sauna data is really coming out, the benefits of frequent sauna use, cold plunge therapies. So part of the facility will be dedicated to these sorts of treatments. Contrast therapy suites will be private suites that include a sauna, a cold plunge, and a shower. So you can go in and get those 3 treatments done in a private setting. Other clinic areas, we haven't finalized exactly which of these, I call them modalities, which one of these therapies, pulse electromagnetic frequency, PEMF being one of them that we'll likely do, a desensitization, neurodesensitization room to help desensitize and downregulate the nervous system. Stretch therapy, where we're working on mobility through one-on-one stretching, keeping range of motion, all big parts of aging optimally. And then finally, our team conference suite. So quarterly, you may sit down with your team, your nutrition coach, your movement therapy coach. If you're having specific therapy issues that needed a physical therapy intervention, your physical therapist, your physician, and we all sit around the table together with you quarterly and review your numbers, review your exercise and your movement, how compliant have you been, what's your show rate, how the first part of getting benefit is you got to show up. How's your attendance been, and keep people accountable. A yearly physical is a good thing, but it's probably not enough. And trying to cover everything in a 15-minute session with your physician on your yearly physical is you know, it's doing the bare minimum, but these visits last anywhere from an hour and a half every quarter. So this is our full team, myself, Tara, and then our other two business partners, Doug and Taylor Ferner. Turn it back over to Tara.
Yeah. So surrounding impact on the neighborhood. The building location allows us to operate within the existing rhythm of the neighborhood. Most of the traffic associated with the business moves in the same direction as pedestrian and school-related activity. As was mentioned before, this is a member-only private training and programming is available by appointment only, Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., and then 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m., Saturday, 8 a.m. to 1, and Sundays we are closed. All sessions are typically 45 to 50 minutes long and average 4 to 6 members plus 1 to 2 staff. As Tom mentioned, the one-on-one physician consultations are scheduled 1 day per week, with individual consultations scheduled throughout the day depending on client physician availability. Employee shift hours follow above. Vehicle flow will be staggered throughout the day rather than concentrated at peak times, resulting in light, manageable traffic that can be fully accommodated by the existing parking that has been approved on the property. And in closing, we believe our proposed use represents a substantial positive enhancement to the surrounding neighborhood, bringing innovative wellness services to Rochester while operating as a thoughtful, low-impact, appointment-only facility with minimal traffic, manageable parking, and meaningful property improvements that contribute to the long-term beauty and vitality of the community. So thank you all for coming out tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, at this time, it's 7:26. I'll open the meeting for a public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come up and make any comments or about this particular project? And if you would, again, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Margaret Mountain, and I live at 160 Albertson Street. And I'm actually I may come up again because I'm actually representing Linda and Pete Gamage. They live on Griggs, and they were unable to attend tonight because of a previous commitment, but they wrote a letter, and they asked me to read it just to ensure not just that it's part of the public record, but that also people can hear the points they've made, because it may raise other issues, I'm not sure. So I'm just going to read the letter now. Dear members of the Planning Commission, thank you for the opportunity to review and provide feedback on the proposed Health and Wellness Center planned for the property located behind our home. We regret we are unable to attend the meeting in person to speak directly on this important topic. We would like to begin by acknowledging that if this property can't revert back to residential per the intended zoning, a longevity-based or focused appointment-based wellness and spa facility appears to be a more appropriate fit for this residential area than prior proposals, such as CrossFit gym and dog daycare training facility, both of which were strongly opposed by the neighbors. The architectural plans presented are attractive, and the concept of a low-traffic, appointment-only wellness use aligns more closely with the character of our neighborhood. However, we do have several concerns, particularly regarding the inclusion of the gym component, that we respectfully ask the Commission to carefully consider. Traffic and safety. The proposed location is directly adjacent to a daycare, a neighborhood park, and a bus stop serving elementary school children. Increased vehicle traffic, especially during early morning and peak class times, raises significant safety concerns for the children and families in the area. In addition, gym-related traffic patterns often involve individuals traveling on tight personal schedules, such as before work or between other commitments. This can lead to hurried driving behaviors, including speeding or reduced attention to surroundings. Introducing this type of time-sensitive traffic into a residential neighborhood, particularly one with young children, pedestrians, and school-related activity, creates an elevated risk that is not consistent with the safety expectations of the area. Early morning operation. The proposal indicates that gym-related activities could begin as early as 5 a.m. This is inconsistent with the quiet expectations of a residential neighborhood and would introduce activity during hours typically reserved for rest. Additionally, the impact is amplified by the proximity and orientation of the surrounding homes. The master bedrooms of several adjacent properties, including our own, directly face this site, with our bedroom located approximately 90 feet from the rear wall of the proposed gym space. Given this close distance, early morning activities such as arriving vehicles and general movement associated with gym operations would be clearly noticeable and disruptive during this critical time for sleep. Neighborhood character and use intensity. Even small group gyms create a different pattern of use than typical residential or appointment-based services, with classes bringing groups of people at the same time and generating frequent cycles of arrivals and departures during the day. In contrast, our backyards and those of our neighbors currently serve as a peaceful and quiet refuge within the neighborhood. Introducing a higher intensity use with repeated activity cycles would significantly change that character and reduce the sense of tranquility the residents value and expect in a residential setting. Parking and overflow. Parking appears to be limited, approximately 19 spaces, yet the proposal suggests that gym classes may accommodate up to 12 or 13 participants at a time. With staff, spa clients, potential overlapping class schedules, it's unclear how this parking demand will be managed. We're particularly concerned about overflow parking spilling into surrounding residential streets, which were not designed to accommodate commercial demand and would introduce additional congestion and safety concerns. Consistency with zoning principles and prior consideration. We respectfully remind the Commission that evidence has previously been presented regarding why gym use is not appropriate within a residential setting. These concerns remain directly applicable here. The City of Rochester's zoning framework reinforces this distinction. Residential districts are intended to support low-intensity living environments, while higher-intensity commercial uses are directed toward business and commercial districts. Consistent with this framework, existing gyms within Rochester are located in industrial, business, or central business district areas, rather than within residential districts. In contrast, an appointment-only spa and wellness service represents a lower intensity, staggered use model that aligns more closely with residential compatibility, excuse me, whereas a gym inherently involves group classes, synchronized arrivals and departures, and higher turnover that increases activity levels. Introducing a gym component into a residential area runs counter to these established land use patterns and undermines the intent of zoning regulations, which are specifically structured to preserve neighborhood character and compatibility. Clarity on structures and full use plan. At the previous presentation, no clear plan was provided for the use of the existing red shed structure, although conceptual images of renovation are shown. We would appreciate clarification on its intended function and how it fits into the overall operational plan, as this information is necessary for the Commission to fully evaluate the scope and potential impacts of the proposal. In summary, while we support a low-impact, appointment-only wellness and spa concept, we believe the addition of a gym component introduces a level of intensity that is not compatible with the surrounding residential environment. We respectfully request that the Planning Commission carefully evaluate and limit the gym component, consider restrictions on hours of operation, require robust parking and traffic mitigation plans, ensure the use remains consistent with a low-impact neighborhood-compatible model. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration of the concerns of nearby residents. Sincerely, Pete and Linda Gamage, 333 Grigg Street, Rochester.
Anyone else?
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Ann Wing. I live at 318 Griggs, which is right around the corner from these parcels that we're talking about. I appeared once before during the rezoning hearing. At that time, I came to you with a goal of representing the children that are in the neighborhood. I am a mother. We have a lot of kids in the neighborhood, maybe 15 to 20 in this little pocket of our neighborhood. Our bus stop is right around the corner from yours. There's about 10 kids that get on there, another handful that get on at Pine and Drace. Right now, it's already very chaotic. As mentioned, there's not sidewalks on both sides of the street. So on the blocks that are west towards the park, there's no sidewalks on one side of Albertson, and there's no sidewalks on one side of Griggs. The kids are forced to cross over without crosswalks, without yield signs. We have two-way stops. It's already kind of dangerous. Last summer, a child was struck by a car over towards Woodward by a vehicle coming out of an alley. Everyone's totally okay. The driver stopped. The child was unharmed. I worry about the next time a child is going to be hit by a car. Your property, this parcel, it's located right about here. This is a blind corner right here. Limited sight. People zip around here. There's no yield. There's no crosswalk. So I'm interested in how we can accommodate the children, the pedestrians. As mentioned, here's your parcel. Here's NC3, the Child Care Center. They're a very busy preschool. They have children ages 2.5 to 6. They're full capacity. If you've had toddlers, you know what it's like to pick them up to and from school. It's chaotic. I already have a lot of concerns. Adding traffic to the area, people that don't know the neighborhood, it's scary for us. So we are pro-business. We understand that the Russells want to retire. We are pro-progress. My family owns a business in Rochester. My family also owns a local business in Rochester Hills. I love the designs and the concept. I'm all for wellness and longevity. Unfortunately, the property, the root of this is that the property is contaminated. That's where this all stems from. The land is contaminated. So the land should be zoned residential, but it's not because the land is contaminated. So now we're trying to change zoning, make special projects to fit businesses in an area where they really don't belong. So that's our concern. And I ask, what do we know about the contamination? I know Lakeshore came in and did an independent study. Have we done our own due diligence? Have we done phase 1 and phase 2? Do we know, is the contamination moving towards the river? Have we tested the groundwater? Am I gonna have to Aaron Brockovich you all in 10 years because the kids are growing a 3rd year? I don't know. It's kind of silly and ironic that a wellness center is going on top of contaminated land. I'm wondering, has the city considered how we can use this area to benefit the community? Are you interested in attaining green spaces? What a beautiful parcel next to the trail, next to the park, next to the all accessibilities area, Memorial Grove, Hallbach Field. It's all right there with tons of pedestrians, not just kids. Could it be a stop off the Paint Creek Trail? Could it be a hammock park? Could it be native plants for our pollinators that we've won awards for? Have we looked into support from the county, the state? Have we applied for a brownfield grant? How can we turn contaminated land into something that is beneficial for the community, the residents of the area? I'm just wondering if we are ignoring the root of the problem. And unfortunately, it seems like the neighbors have to come up here and protect our neighborhood and our kids and the pedestrians when we don't want to have to do that. When we support progress, we support businesses, and it's putting us in a tricky spot. So I thank you all for your time and your consideration, and hopefully something can be done. Thank you.
So now I'm coming up as me. Margaret Mountain, 160 Albertson Street. I just have a few points. Some of the things have already kind of been covered. But I keep butting up against this special project designation Like I've been to a number of meetings about the master plan. I've been to a number of things about zoning. And I watch the planning commission and the city council agendas, because I don't want to miss if there's more conversation about that, because we almost ran into an issue with a change that had been made that the neighbors weren't aware of. So I'm vigilant. And it's not clear to me, I haven't seen that the master plan and the zoning either have actually been approved. I mean, we've talked about them. I know in the zoning, there's the South Street stuff that I don't think has been resolved yet. But all through this is, you know, because it's a master plan, or I'm sorry, special project designation. And I just want to say that from my perspective, I thought some of that's still, like, it's out there. I think it's, I think it's probably a good designation for it. But to me, we're talking about like it's done. And it doesn't, that new information for me if that's true, because I didn't think it was actually completed, that whole process. In fact, it's been a bit frustrating, because it seems to me, in fact, I talked to a commissioner this morning who said we're going to start on a new master plan soon. And I thought, man, we haven't even got from my perspective, we haven't got the first one, or maybe not the first one, the current one done yet. But anyway, so it's not clear to me that it's actually officially a special project designation. In Lori Morgan's talk at the meeting in May, the Planning Commission, she indicated that there was no coming or going detail in the report, like the traffic, like how many cars per, like the coming and going detail. But despite this, and there's nothing in the current package for this meeting. I opened it up assuming that we would have the coming and going detail, but it's not there. So there's lots of comments in the parking that the longevity session will be low impact commercial activity, poses minimal nuisance in the neighborhood, and no traffic study is required. But I don't know what's the basis for those comments. I haven't seen anything in any of these packages that says at 5, this is going to happen at 5, this happens at 6, until 12:30, and then there's a gap, and then there's some more. Like, how do we know what the impact is when, to me, we've learned a lot about that longevity session, and I think it looks great. I mean, some of that stuff I knew nothing about, some I know a little bit about, but the piece that really is the traffic. And I don't think that these sessions, the gym sessions, are part of the appointment-based 4 or 5 people, at least not from what I've seen. So it's not clear to me that we should be making those comments that poses minimal nuisance, and so we don't need to do a study, because I haven't seen any details, any data that would support that position. And so that concerns me. And I think it should concern the Planning Commission. So I think there should be a completed time schedule with all the activities. You know, we're hoping, just like with the dogs, right? We're gonna have 40 dogs. Okay, well, now you know what you're planning for. They should have an idea on our business plan. Here's how many people, here's when we expect them to come. And I think that should be transparent. We should see that so we can get a good sense of what's really gonna happen. And I'm not sure if there's also private and semi-private. And I'm not quite sure, my definition of private and semi-private may or may not be the same as yours, I'm not sure. But it's not defined. Like, well, I assume private's probably 1 person. But I know semi-private, is that 2 people? Is that 8 people? It depends, right? And so I don't know how we evaluate this without that detail. It needs to be in there. From the parking, again, I think if you don't have the schedule and the coming and going, I don't know how you decide if you've got enough parking. Because I've been to lots of gyms. If there's a class that starts at 10 and one at 11, the people who come in at 11 are going to be there before the people at 10 leave. And are they 12 people in the class? I mean, I don't know. Because, again, there's just an absence of, to me, really clear data. So we can, so you can make the decision, I guess, but so we can feel satisfied that the information's out there. The gym, I think, is in the area with the big overhead door. Is that door going to still be functional? Will the door ever be open when exercises are on? I mean, like, I would say, to be honest with you, if I was an exercise person, that big door was there and it was a beautiful day, I'd say lift it up, man. Like, that's what I'd be wanting. But I don't know what your plan is. And again, there's no information in here that would help me understand that. So I'd like to get an answer to that question. And the plan for the shed, I think that was already, I don't know what that is, but the renovation looks great. I'm telling you, no offense, but the orange barn paint is not that lovely. So I think that your plans for renovation look good, but it's expensive to renovate a building. It's hard for me to imagine you would do that and not have, and just store wheelbarrows in there or something. But I don't know, maybe that's your plan. And then my last thing, I stopped into the current GH gym that's behind the Framers Workshop. And I talked to Taylor, who she said she and her husband own that business, and she is over the moon excited about joining with you guys in this business venture. But my presumption in talking to her is that they'll be moving to this new facility with you. And I said, okay, so you'll have classes at 5, you'll have the break. It sounds like, from what I inferred from that is, their existing business is gonna be like kind of side by, or maybe not side by side, but it'll be added to yours, and together, it's a great package. But when I looked at their current gym schedule, their strength classes that are an hour long have 8 people in a session. The med zone ones have 12 people in a session. The strength classes, there's a half hour between them, so there must be an overlap because the classes are 50 minutes and there's a half hour between the schedule. And then there's also open gym, which I presume then means no appointment, no sign up ahead in their current plan. So again, there's nothing, I've been quite frustrated, you can maybe tell, because I've spent quite a bit of time looking through this, and to me the data that's required to really evaluate this proposal has not yet been presented. Like to me, we've got a lovely half picture. Like I think what you've got there looks great, but there's another whole chunk that to me we just haven't seen. So I guess my request is that you, at the end of the night, rather than vote, or maybe you vote on this, I don't know, but that you table this until we can get that information. And either there would be another public hearing or some kind of distribution when we have the data. So, because I would love to support this. I mean, I've tried to support everything that's gone in there, but there's always seems to be some reason that it just, to me, doesn't make sense. But I can't support it until, to me, we get more information. So so my request of the Planning Commission is that you don't vote yes or no tonight, and that you table it until we get this information. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience like to make any comments?
Hi,
Hello.
I'm hobbling along tonight. I'm Jane Pitchford, and I live at 177 Albertson Street. I agree with a lot of what Margaret just said. I, took it upon myself because I feel like we are lacking so much information. Their hours of operation Monday through Friday are 10.5 hours. And Tara had said that there were 4 to 6 clients per session. And so I just kind of rounded it out to 10 hours a day and 6 people every hour rather. And that gets me to 60 people coming in, which is probably minimum. But that would be 60 cars coming in, having their session, and then 60 cars going out at the end of the day. That's 60 per day. And for Saturday, I know the other gym Holistic, they have Saturday hours, which is an open gym. But just figuring that out, they're open 5 hours on Saturday. And just saying if 6 people came, that would be 30 cars that day. 5 times 6 is 30. So there'd be 30 cars coming in on Saturday morning between, I believe it's 8 and 1, and 30 going out. So The best I can figure, that's about 660 cars weekly. Probably it's not as many as there will be. There'll probably be more coming in and out of our neighborhood every week, in addition to all the other traffic that we do have in our neighborhood. So I just wanted to say that because I had it with me, and Margaret had mentioned it, that the lack of information of, what the current schedule will be, and do classes overlap as they do at the other gym holistic, which would make parking a whole different story as well. So I just wanted to say, based on the hours of operation, which is Monday 5 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. and 4:30 to 6 p.m., which is 10.5 hours Monday through Friday, and 5 hours on Saturday, which is 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. And also based on the class sizes, which Tara had said, typically 4 to 6 clients for a duration of 45 to 50 minutes per session. I would have to say that this is a far greater increase of traffic and business hours that is not reasonable for the streets of Griggs and Albertson and the surrounding neighborhoods. This is actually huge. This is not a 40-hour per week company. They are open 57.5 hours per week. That is 17.5 hours more than a usual 40-hour week business. This is not a business where employees come in, work, take a lunch break, and leave at 5:30 in the afternoon. It is a company of comings and goings type of business. People come and go all day. The more clients they have, the more traffic we will have. I feel this surge of traffic, volume, and increased business hours will decrease our property values and change the character of our neighborhood. With no sidewalks by the proposed site, the increase of traffic could present safety hazards for walkers and bikers going to or coming from the park or the Paint Creek Trail. As many of the houses on these streets have outdoor front porch seating or side yard seating, the increase of hundreds of extra cars going up and down our streets weekly will detract from our sense of place, our physical neighborhood, and our social fabric. Also important is an increase of intensity by far for business hours and traffic that has not been generated by any business at 322 through 326 Albertson for the past 51 years. And I know this because I've lived on my Albertson house for 51 years. This business is too intense for our neighborhood, and if this business is approved, I feel we will lose the balance that our neighborhood needs to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe there was a lady in the back that was coming up.
Just really quickly, my name is Sandy Montez. I live at 332 Griggs, right around the corner from this development. And I think the one question that keeps coming to my mind is, has there been a traffic study done? I haven't seen anything, but as a former MDOT engineer, I know that for us to approve any kind of a facility or change of use, we would always require a traffic impact study be done. And because of this special use, I understand the property is already there, but the change is pretty dramatic, and the impact to our neighborhood, as everyone else has pointed out, could be detrimental. And so at a minimum, we would request that the Planning Commission require a thorough traffic impact study before this is approved. That's all. If you have anything else.
I'm Sandy's husband, Carlos, and the only other comment I would make is I would echo a lot of the safety concerns that our neighbors have brought up. And I've often wondered why we don't have stop signs at every corner in the neighborhood. It's amazing to me how many people speed taking their children to the daycare. And again, it's almost like with total disregard for certainly the kids in the neighborhood, but even residents. I mean, I've been out on the curb putting garbage in my canisters day of, and people are flying by trying to get there. So, you know, along with a traffic study, you know, is there a comprehensive, you know, safety evaluation that can be made at a minimum should you decide to go forward with this project or any subsequent projects? I mean, it's only a matter of time before somebody gets hit on that street because the speeds are excessive to what a residential area should be. So.
Sir?
My name is Bill LaRosa. I live on 128 Drace Street, just a couple streets over. And I've been a resident there for 16 years, and I've just kind of followed this piece of property. And, you know, I've seen some of the other proposals, and I've listened to everybody else, so everybody has really valid points, and I wasn't even really prepared to speak, but my perception was very positive coming into this, and it still is, because my concern was creating some community there, rather than it being kind of like a obsolete building that I really didn't know what the purpose was. And I love the idea of, and I know there may be some traffic, but I wouldn't be driving to it. I would hope that there would be people that are using it, like in our neighborhood. Like my wife and myself and my kids would hope to use something like this rather than to walk by a building that we really don't know what the purpose of. So, you know, I'm sensitive to what everybody said, because you guys all made like really valid points, and I was like, wow, this is cool. I've never actually been to a hearing like this. I just wanted to see the presentation because I hadn't seen it. I just saw what the idea was, and I liked the idea, and I liked the aesthetic of it, and I liked the improvements. But I guess what I wanted to say is, when I think about some of the high-end neighborhoods that I visit, maybe not in Rochester, but maybe in Birmingham where I work, or certainly in Florida or in Naples, they all have this sort of wellness center attached to it as as actually something that would be considered a luxury. So for me, when I heard this presentation, rather than be a place where you're gonna bring a dog for, daycare or for overnight or, CrossFit, which I think is completely different than this with people slamming around weights, this is more, I think, geared towards taking care of your body and longevity. And, I don't know all the intricacies, but I'm hoping it's not, lugheads throwing weights around all the time like, we're a little afraid of. I feel like it's spa-like. And that to me was, okay, like that's something I could live with. I don't know what the next proposal will be and what the idea of the property will come along next. So if I have options, I like the option. It makes me feel like, okay, this is something the community can use. It's something that I'll use. It's something that I can walk to. It's something that, I hope, I would hope for this property to be. So that's just my positive take on this amidst some of the, the other thoughts.
Anyone else in the audience? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Lauren Coleman. I live at 337 Griggs Street. I'm next door to Pete and Linda Gamage, who you heard the letter from earlier tonight. And my property does directly abut the area that is planned for the gym activities. I'm going to echo several other things that have already been said, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I am obviously, I think you've gotten the feedback that everybody would love to see something that looks a little more appropriate in that area. Also, very big fan of doctor's office or by appointment only. My concern with this proposal is I think you have kind of gone out of your way to not obscure, but to certainly downplay the gym concept that goes along with this. And so if the idea, and I appreciate your positive sentiments for it, we were initially maybe a little more excited about it when we heard by appointment only. We looked at some of the architectural drawings, you know, great, we'll finally get a good solution. And then the more we heard about, well, geez, is there a gym? And I even stopped, I think, and talked with you guys at one point and said, you know, what actually is involved in the longevity? Like, what kind of services are you gonna offer? Nobody said anything about a gym, and I had at least 3 of you there the day that I stopped by. My concern is if that other gym location is closing and they are moving and everything's gonna be here, I can't imagine that you're gonna be spending that kind of money to renovate the building and not want more clients. It just doesn't seem to make sense to me. Maybe it makes sense to you on the council, doesn't seem to make sense to me. The other issue that I have with the plan as presented is the business hours are completely inappropriate for a residential area. So if you are asking us via special project to make way for a more flexible use, then I think we also need to look at the other side of the coin and say, what does the business need to do to be an appropriate fit for the residential neighborhood environment? And just to be clear, I know there's been some discussion around the DDA district and it butting up against the DDA district. There are houses behind this building. There's a house on the side, there's a park on the other side. So there is no general shopping area, there is no development area that touches this property. It is surrounded by residential and park. And I was disappointed with the quality of the site review that came from McKenna this time. I really don't think that you've had an opportunity perhaps to see the area and to understand the property and the proposal properly. The hours of operation, we have a construction restriction in the city. The construction can't start before 7 in the morning, right? The daycare we have on the street starts at 7 in the morning. Why would we be looking to open up an opportunity for gym classes at 5? I don't understand that. That to me doesn't make sense and doesn't telegraph to me that you care about fitting into our neighborhood. So I would ask the council and the applicants to really think through, is that really necessary for their business plan, and is there a different way that they could approach that if they really want to be in this location? I also am concerned because about 40% of the building space is allocated for gym activities. So again, when you read the prospectus and you say, oh wow, a by appointment, longevity, we're going to have spa services, that's great, but almost half of the building is dedicated to the gym and workout space and the exercise classes that are going to be offered. So I would echo the other presentations that have been made and say, I really don't think you have enough information tonight. I would hope to vote on this and that we would get more clarity from the gym side of the business on what the game plan is and really what the accommodations are that are going to be made to make that a better fit for a residential area. Thank you very much.
Anyone else in the audience? Step forward.
Good evening. It's Jeff Russell, 345 Lysander, and we are the current owners, Albertson LLC, of the subject property. I just had a couple of points, just quickly for maybe some clarification. Regarding the environmental information on the parcels, which have been discussed through this body for a number of years. The phase 1 and 2 were completed probably about 10 years ago. That information was passed along to the city. It was required to be passed along to the city at that time, so that all has been done and the city is aware of it. And regarding the special project designation, that was confirmed by Vidya probably in January and with concurrence from the attorneys. I believe Nick spoke to it at the last meeting. So it is indeed a special project designated on the master plan that was approved. Other than that, we're clearly excited about the proposal. We believe it is a much better fit than our industrial use or a continued industrial use. We're very excited to see something like this come to the neighborhood, and in time, I hope that the body will approve it. With that, thank you.
Anyone else in the audience? Rose, is anyone online?
There's no one online.
Okay. It is now 8:05 and the public comment is now over. Commissioners, any questions or comments that you may have?
Where to begin?
Why don't you go ahead, Mr. Bachman?
Okay. Guess I've just volunteered myself. Well, as always, we appreciate public comment. There's a lot of really helpful information shared. I suppose, I mean, I had the same concerns too about the traffic study, and maybe Ms. Morgan can better articulate why that wasn't done, and there may be a very good reason, but maybe you could also opine on what we might truly learn from a traffic study. Would it give us more information that would create greater sufficiency for a decision?
Sure, I'm happy to talk about that. So the reason that it wasn't done is that it's not required by the zoning ordinance for a special project for a use of this type. The zoning ordinance only calls out the requirement for a traffic impact study in the case of a special exception where it's felt that it's needed. Usually when you're looking at a traffic impact study, it's going to be a development of sort of, I realize that this is an intensification of the use on the site, but it would be something that was sort of a more obviously significant intensification for an area that would have a significant impact. That said, given potential concerns from the public received at a public hearing, which is specifically called out as part of the special project review standard, that we should make sure to take those comments into consideration, you can make additional requirements based on public health, safety, and general welfare. So, despite not being called out specifically in the zoning ordinance, given especially public concern, you could ask for a traffic impact study, which, in this case, it's going to be fairly small numbers that you're looking at, but it might shed some light. So, in terms of exactly what you're going to see, especially because it's not significant peak hour traffic, and, despite the fact that, maybe totals would indicate what sounds like a large number at any given time, you're not going to see a significant number of trips. It might not indicate a ton, but it might still indicate an uptick for the neighborhood. So, I can see it both ways. You might see some impact, and given the surrounding use and given concerns for welfare, maybe we don't call it exactly a traffic impact study, but additional consideration for traffic maybe should be considered and could be asked for.
Thank you. As a follow-up to the city manager, I think maybe we learn more from the police chief. They do those, they put those boxes and they tether it to a tree or a sign or something just to kind of get a count and a dispersion of speeds. Is that something that the city would be willing to do?
What's going on in the neighborhood now?
Yeah, just to.
Yeah, I mean, yes, if the neighborhood requests something, we put speed signs up, absolutely. Or speed traps, we call them, so just to see, but we haven't heard, nobody's requested that I know of, so.
It'd be kind of like counting parking spaces for payment in lieu of request. Might be interesting just to see, just to get more data. I think it's reasonable to want to see more information. I think I have some questions for the applicant as well, and I'd certainly like the applicant to maybe address some of the things that they heard tonight, particularly, what I'd like to hear from your perspective, the applicant's perspective, Mr. Chair, is, you know, their sense of the traffic expectations, you know, truly how many patrons are going to be in the establishment at a given time, how many cars, things like that. And I really didn't get from the initial presentation this idea of the gym. That really didn't stick out to me, so I'd like to hear more about that, particularly with the comments that were raised about the GH location right downtown, potentially moving that business to Albertson.
Yeah, happy to answer any questions. So do you want to start one at a time, or?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So I guess we'll start with the traffic question. We have not done dedicated or deep dive, back of the envelope math. I think yours is pretty close, pretty good. Like, call it 60 a day, I think would probably be a good guesstimate to start. But I would like an opportunity to actually do the math and run the numbers and say kind of at a minimum volume what you could expect, and if we ever reach maximal capacity, what would that look like? So we could understand a true range of what that traffic might be. We'd be happy to do that. I don't think that's something I can accurately comment on tonight, so I don't want to try to make profound statements, but I think back of the envelope math, I think sounded pretty good. What was presented made sense to me. This idea of a gym, like what is a gym? Like define what a gym. It conjures up a lot of different images. You know, is it slamming weights and loud music? Is it structured movement therapy? We want to be very sensitive to any kind of noise pollution that we would create. Our classes are appointment, trainer, supervised, not come and go as you please in this location. In the current location, they do have certain open gym hours. Those would be things that would disappear in our new location. As a physician, the only way to incorporate proper movement therapy is to work with a trainer, is to incorporate a trainer. I've been a patron of Gym Holistic. It used to be HIT Quarters, and they've now rebranded to GH, or Gym Holistic, for a decade. And our partner, Doug, and his wife, Taylor, are the most knowledgeable, the best personal trainers I've ever met and worked with. And that's why I've decided to partner with them on this endeavor. Yeah, it's not retro fitness. It's not Lifetime. It's different. And, you know, I would love to invite you to come and see these classes and you know, it sounds like some of you did kind of pop in to see what the classes are. Hear the, you know, birds chirping from the outside before you walk in the building. Like it's not noisy. It's not loud. It's not cheap. Our clients are not going to be $10 a month, $20 a month kind of clients. It's hard for me to really put it at exactly what it's going to look like, exactly what the end product will be, but the vision is just, you know, extremely high end. I mean, it's and not high volume. But I'd be happy to provide more numbers. I think after hearing like the public, like I don't think a vote tonight makes a sense. One, everybody's not here. Two, there's a lot of unanswered questions. I would be happy to write those questions up. You know, give us time to maybe do a traffic study. Maybe, you know, measure twice, cut once. Like really make sure we're getting this right before we jump into this. Because I mean, we are investing a lot of money in the building. We want our neighbors to like us. We don't want an adversarial relationship. Like we want to add value to the community. Sorry, Russell. Like it's not a rush on our end. Like we want to buy the property. They want to sell the property, but we want to get it right, and we want to do it in a way that partners with our community and our neighborhood, and not put the children at risk. I mean, we have young children. Well, I guess they're not young anymore, 14, but we've been there. Like I totally get the concern. You know, we live on Inglewood, which is a busy street with Holy Family and church traffic. So living in downtown. Yeah, it kind of, yeah. I mean, we take take it as it's part of what we chose when we purchased there. Now, I know this is different, this is new, and we want to be very respectful to that. So, I don't know, I rambled. I hope I answered some of your questions.
That's great, yeah. It's very helpful, thank you.
Any other questions that I didn't answer you wanted
Yeah.
specific answers to?
I don't know that, I think you had asked it, but just to be very clear, are you planning to keep the other location open and have this one, or they?
No, it will move.
Okay.
We will move operations from the current location to this location.
It won't merge.
Right,
So you said that like there's open gym sessions at the current location that will not be transferring to the new location. So some of your operations will be a bit different at this location. Okay.
Correct, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna speak. The word term open gym is very deceiving because that's when I go, because nobody's there.
They decided to have it be open gym rather than appointments because they weren't filling the appointments. They're like, all right, anybody wants to come during this time, just go ahead and come during this time. They're the low volume times, the low appointment request times, so they didn't make people make appointments for those times. But like, to your question, you don't know that, like, we should tell you, like, we should disclose that, and we'd be happy to do that homework. That's not impossible homework for us to do.
Ms. Murphy?
Just to refine that everything at this location is appointment only, and it's not there is no come and go.
Correct.
Correct, okay, thank you.
I was
Well,
actually, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we'll have like apps, like you log on, you set your appointment time for whatever service you're looking for, so it's all like staggered.
I was actually there on Friday when you popped in, and I noticed you because many people don't just walk in, so I knew. And there was, I think, 4 of us there that day.
Well, and I didn't sneak in, I told her.
Right.
And we're not trying to be deceptive. We're like, we really, like, please, like, you can look at what we're doing. We want to be fully transparent. We don't want to sneak in and then be a nuisance to the neighborhood. That's not our goal.
Ms. Campbell, more?
I just had a quick, with that information you guys provide in the coming weeks, if you could also maybe detail out a little bit more of the nature of those classes in that training studio performance lab, the ones that are more group oriented. If you could just give maybe examples of what that could look like in like more detailed terms, that would be really helpful as well.
Like a daily, like if you were to show up on Monday, what's it look like today? What exercise, what's the core exercise? What's the station 1, station 2, station 3 look like?
Exactly.
Yeah, we can do that.
And then just included, if you're gonna address it all, the orange shed, like what is the plan
Yeah,
for that?
Yeah, it can, initially, we'll use it for storage.
We're just gonna update the aesthetic and make it look very pretty.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Banda?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, so great residents' comments. So we've got them all down. Lori and I just talked. The traffic will be based on, in writing, this is what we're doing every hour of every day. Why are we here at 5 in the morning? Why is there a break in the middle of the day? How many cars are going to come between 5 and 6? Because a traffic engineer will not be able to evaluate unless they commit to it. Once they commit to it in writing, then if anything deviates from that, it becomes an open gym, then they've broken the special project thing. So they know that and don't expect that. But again, good start, great questions from the neighborhood. We can get those answered. And that will give it to a traffic engineer to make sure that they understand exactly the pro forma that they're evaluating, how many trips are generated every hour, every day. So thank you for saying that you'll work with us and we can get together and set those parameters so that you can have answers for the folks, but good comments.
I think this has been said in one way or another, but from my perspective, you've specified there basically be 4 to 6 clients per hour. If you can break that down between those that will be using I'm going to say spa services versus those that are going to use the gym services or anything else that you may offer. If you could spell it out that way, I think that would give everybody a lot of clarity.
Sure.
And then I guess just for the record, then at this point, you're choosing not to go forward with the motion and the final vote.
I think that makes the most sense. Yeah,
Okay, very good.
Withdraw that request or postpone that request. So
This will fulfill the obligation of a public hearing. Again, this will go before, if it gets through planning commission, whether it's approval or denial, would go to city council. They would have another public hearing. So We would not notice 350 feet for everybody again, but I would suspect if you guys can get this done pretty quick, we could try to hit the next meeting, which is July, if not August. So people should, that came tonight, look on our agendas to see when it's going to come up, because we won't keep sending out letters to the neighborhood. Right. Yeah, when city council has a public hearing, that'll be noticed, again, 30 days in advance, and let everybody within 300 feet know also. But back to the planning commission, it would just be the next scheduled meeting that we get the information that we need.
Thank you.
Okay. For those questions we want answered, is there a way to kind of make sure we don't miss one? Like, I think I got them in my head, but like a list, an email, something like that would be really helpful. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Moving on to item 5B, notice of public hearing for 824 Miller Road.
Mr. Chair, should we entertain a motion to postpone?
No, that's not a bad idea.
Okay.
Table until the next available date based on getting the information.
All right. Well, yeah, the applicant withdrew it, but we can close the business.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I move to postpone consideration of special project approval for GH Longevity at 322-326 Albertson Street until the July 6th, 2026 regular meeting, or the next available meeting by which the information is ready and available.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Ms. Murphy? All right. Roll call, please.
Kenjuk,
Yes.
Bachman,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Harden,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Okay. All right, now, item 5B, notice of public hearing for 824 Miller Road, site plan review for the existing natural gas regulator station. I see that the applicant is in the audience, but we will go right to Ms. Morgan for her updated review.
Yes, thank you. So we have seen this twice before. We had two preliminary reviews regarding the Consumers Energy regulator station. So these are some minor updates since our last review, but I won't spend a ton of time going through the letter since not much has changed. So, as the use interpretation, the review of the definition of essential services doesn't include this as the exemption, so it does have to be reviewed as a utility. For the dimensional standards, we've already identified that the heater is within the front yard, but given its nature in relationship to the use, it is considered sort of standard equipment that would be found. And so for this use specifically, that is deemed allowable to be within that setback. Plans have been updated to indicate the height of the proposed remote telemetry unit, which has an average height of 6 feet with the light fixture extending to 9 feet. So that complies with the district height limitations of 15 feet. The facade of the structure was updated to be sort of more consistent with the character of the area and have that vintage, whitewash vintage brick exterior. The fence screening will need to go for a variance as the maximum permitted height of the fence on the residentially zoned parcel is 6 feet. Also, a change from the previous preliminary review, given Mr. Banda's comments about the ornamental fence having spikes. I think, sharp is a relative term maybe because it does appear to be slightly rounded, but upon my review of some previous letters and looking at how that's been applied previously, I do believe that ornamental fence design should be revised just to make sure that we are implementing the ordinance consistently for all applicants. Per section 2804, the wall surrounding the building fulfills the requirement for screening between a wall between residential and non-residential uses. However, any, approval of this should capture that you are specifically approving the use of the concrete wall design as masonry is technically required, but the ordinance does allow for you to officially approve the use of a man-made feature that would reduce substantially, that would produce substantially equivalent results of screening and durability to a masonry wall. So if you see fit, just please specify that you are approving that alternate material. In terms of landscaping, it is compliant, and regular maintenance and replacement of the plantings would be identified and carried out by the property owner as they've identified in their previous presentations. Minimal signage is proposed, and any additional signage would require an additional administrative review. Access and circulation for the gates that are proposed at the front and south side of the site. The front gate will allow for primary access to the site, while the 3-foot wide gate at the side will be used only in the case of emergency. So this provides, safe access. The concrete drive has been added leading up to the gate, as was discussed in their first preliminary review, and the existing sidewalk will be maintained. 1 parking space is provided to meet their needs for maintenance on the site. Otherwise, it, really will not be accessed. And then the plan proposes a light fixture on the front and rear sides of the building to be operated by a switch. The updated plans provide additional details for the lighting fixtures, indicating that they will be downward facing and equipped with shields to meet the requirements of the ordinance. Applicant has made revisions to the plans to address previous comments in our preliminary review letters. Therefore, we recommend that you grant site plan approval conditionally based on an update to the ornamental fence design to remove the sharp points, and on receiving that ZBA variance for the fence height of 8 feet.
Mr. Chairman, so I didn't get to talk to Lori, I was gone, so we did get to the zoning, but we felt sad that they had to lose a whole month, and they're trying to keep this going. So we scheduled the public hearing. Jeremy sent out all the proper notification. We had a hearing, a very robust discussion. The zoning board was looking for a hardship. Why 8 feet, not 6 feet? And so consumers was very patient. The neighbors were there. We had a great dialogue about, this is about security. This is about deer getting caught on the fence possibly. Not so much on the masonry fence, but taller, better for visual. So it was probably a 45-minute discussion just on why the 2 feet. And then they did change the design of the fence to put a top railing on, so it's flat now. So we have that. That will be incorporated into the plans based on the zoning board's requirement. They wanted no points at all, and then they approved the 8 feet. They approved that actual fence, and then they like the idea of being able to see in, like consumers talked about. They want to see in the front. Neighbors can see in front, be advocates. If an animal does get caught inside, there's a number to call in case if a person gets caught inside that shouldn't be in there. So they were granted their waivers for the 2 foot and the modified fence. So that's good.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Would just like one comment. For all our other site plans, we usually get a complete rendering. And this one, they've been here a couple times and it's just the pieces. So just the wall, just the fence, and not, like, what is it gonna look like?
We don't require renderings, it's just the pieces.
It's just the pieces. All right, there you go. Thank you.
In this day and age, you can probably AI one, but it's not required.
Okay.
Commissioners here if you'd like to.
Okay. All right. If the applicant would step up at this moment and update us on anything you would like.
Do you want us to reintroduce ourselves?
Yes, please.
Amy Gilpin with Consumers Energy, One Energy Plaza, Jackson, Michigan. So, yeah. Thank you. Go to this one. Presentation. Uh-oh. Okay. 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 Oh, wrong thing. How do I present? Right there. That thing, right? Okay, there you go. All right. All right. So I'm here to talk about the Miller Parkdale Regulator Station at 824 Miller Avenue. And I know I've talked about this before, but I wanted to explain again what a regulator station is, the purpose of it. So basically we have the natural gas, when it comes out of the storage field, is at a very high pressure. That pressure cannot go directly into your home at that, where it's at. So it has to go first to like a compressor station to get reduced. Still not ready, it has to go to another facility to get reduced some more, and that would be the next step, which is the city gate. And then after that, it goes to a regulator station. Regulator stations tend to be in neighborhoods on this side of the state because they are servicing homes and businesses, so they need to be close to where they're servicing people. And so across the state of Michigan, Consumers Energy has about 630 regulator stations. And every 50 years or so, Consumers goes through and updates those facilities for obvious reasons. It's just like your house, it needs to be updated. So every 50 years or so they do that. This particular site was built in 1962. It is 64 years old, so it is well overdue to be updated. And part of that update is to be modernized to today's safety standards. And so what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be demoing the existing building. We're going to be constructing a new building, replacing the underground piping, installing a heater, filter separator, the fencing, the RTU rack, replacing the existing driveway, the concrete between the sidewalk. It's currently gravel, but we're going to put concrete between the sidewalk and the gravel, or I'm sorry, the fence, and then add landscaping. So it's actually going to look really nice when it's all said and done. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what that looks like. So here is an example of what the building light will look like. It'll go on the front and the back, and it's a downward directed light with a shield, switch operated, as was mentioned. This is what the RTU light looks like. This is the RTU rack. So an RTU rack is, the purpose of that is that it collects data on the gas pressure and a bunch of other stuff that's going on with the gas system. And it transmits that information remotely to a facility in Jackson where it's monitored 24/7 for any kind of, any kind of like little blips or whatever in the pressure system. We also have our filter separator here. So the purpose of that is to remove any kind of particulates from the gas. And then we have a heater, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later some more. But the heater heats the gas, and the gas needs to be basically a consistent temperature. And so the heater is used in the winter time to make sure that that happens. The building has been updated since the first time we were here to reflect all brick. It's the Nichiha brick siding. So, and then we have our ornamental fence, which this is showing without spikes. It's just the flat top. And then we have our concrete wall. And I'm going to talk about that here in a second a little bit more as well. But this is the design that the neighbors had chosen. We have our site layout here, so you can kind of see, like here's Miller Avenue, and then our driveway, which will be concrete. This is our drive area back to the site because we need to be able to come back here with crews and trucks and that type of thing to work on the facility, our building, and then of course the fence all the way around. We are also adding landscaping to the front, and this is going to be between the sidewalk and the fence. We are going to be doing 4 forsythia plants, 7 junipers, and 13 switchgrasses. We put down stone and the weed fabric, and it's on our contractor that is awarded to make sure that these plants survive for the next 2 years. At that point, they should be established. So they are low profile plants. They're drought resistant as well. And the purpose of the low profile, again, is because like what was mentioned, we need to have visualization into the site. And then I wanted to talk about a few things that we didn't talk about really before, but first one being odor. some regulator stations, the old ones have some odor. There's a lot of different reasons for that. Mostly it's because the old facilities had like a double relief valve. I don't know, Anthony is the expert on that. Something that when there was too much pressure, overpressure, like one of the valves had to open it up and it kind of like just put gas out into the air. And so that's what you would smell. The new systems don't have that. So the modern stations don't have an odor. So there will not be an odor here at this site. And again, Anthony he can explain all that, those details to you. And then for noise, Roe did provide a sound study, which I think that you've had time to review. So the question is, will this site be noisy? The heater is what makes the noise at the site, but it only runs during cold temperatures. It doesn't run in the summer. It barely runs in the fall or winter or spring. It has to be really cold for it to do that. And when the results of the sound study, which Doug will be more than happy to go into a great level of detail about that, the noise level falls well under the allowable decibel level in the zone that says in the zoning ordinance. And then we also added the concrete wall. The purpose of the concrete wall was to meet the zoning ordinance for the screening, but also because the concrete wall we have found reduces noise as well. So it's been a really great fence choice for us to use. And then the next thing is safety. Like I said, this site has been here for 64 years. And we're just gonna make it prettier and even more safe than what it already was. So these regulator stations are regulated by the Michigan Public Service Commission, the MPSC. They audit the site and they perform an inspection after the facility is constructed. They have a lot of guidelines and requirements that have to be met. We also follow the TSA safety guidelines for gas pipelines. And then we also have our internal requirements as well that we've, honed over the last, I don't even know how many years, 100 and some years that Consumers has been around. And so the modern sites are designed with safety in mind. The RTU that I mentioned, where it transmits the data, that's a really good safety piece of equipment there. And then if you notice anything at all with the site, the neighbors, you should call 911. They call the emergency number at Consumers, and there's actually, Michigan actually has a rule that those, if there's a leak, a possible leak, they have to be investigated quickly. So just some quick regulation station facts. The site has to be in compliance with local and state regulations. Our normal operating conditions will not result in a natural gas discharge to the atmosphere, so you're not going to smell it. This facility includes a fail-safe feature that does not involve a discharge of natural gas, and any planned release of natural gas would be under the state's required reporting threshold, and that would be like during maintenance or something if we needed to do that. And of course, like all of our other facilities, we will invite the fire department to tour the facility upon completion if they are wanting to do that. So the last thing I wanted to mention was that we've had questions before, like, will gas service be disrupted during the construction of this? The answer is no. The gas lines it's a big network, as you can imagine, underground, and they don't function in isolation. So this particular location is integrated with other stations, and so we do the construction in the summer months and fall because that's not when the biggest load is on the facility. That's in the winter time. So we're able to divert, not really divert, but we're able to provide gas to the residents from the other stations because the demand isn't quite as high as it would be in the winter. So the answer is no, we're not gonna disrupt your service. And then, just in closing, we are requesting a special exception approval and site plan approval this evening. And if you have any questions, I have experts, so.
All right. At this point, we'll open the public comment at 8:40. Anyone in the audience like to ask any questions or have any comments?
Hello, Ken Sherry, 830 Miller. I'm just to the south of the facility here. Quick question, the 9-foot light is over the telemetry, right in the middle, right by 15 feet off the street? Is that new, or was that always the plan? That's always, I must have missed that.
It's on a switch, it's never on unless they're working.
The 9-foot one? It's not like just.
No lights are on.
Unless something's there. Oh, okay, okay. Okay, well, still, I mean, I'm just kind of curious. I mean, people are sleeping and big bright lights come on, stuff like that. So, okay, so there's that. Said in your plan, for 2 years, people are going to water the plants. Please tell me it's not the characters that cut the grass. Somebody else. Those guys are horrendous. Brian and I have been cutting the grass for 7 years because they never were there. So, as long as it's not those cats, we're good.
That's a requirement of our contractors, not.
Yeah, the contractors, yeah. Okay, so they're supposed to water it. Fingers crossed. Okay. They're gonna come remotely. Brian will be out there watering it and so will Donna, like I can tell you right now. Yeah, so that light was just new. The rest of it, I guess I appreciate you guys making all the changes to update it. How long does this take?
You want us to?
How long, once you start digging and
Yeah, so-
you got 10 guys standing around drinking coffee, how long does that get going? You know?
Yeah, Anthony Stepke, One Energy Plaza, same as Amy. To answer your question, if granted approval, this would take about 9 to 10 weeks total for construction. So if everything goes well here, and assuming we get all the remainder of the permits that we've applied for, we plan to start mid-June and then finish by the end of August.
Oh, okay.
So it wouldn't be 6 months or any extended period of time.
I'll be fishing most of that time. So. Okay, I appreciate it, so thank you.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience?
Hi, I'm Donnie York. I live at 834 Miller, and I forgot my question. Can you start in September? Because I have a pool. No, God, I can't remember what I was going to ask now. Oh, I know what it was. I have electrical wires that go over the site. Are you going to do something with those or what? Because they kind of hang a little low. So my power comes from behind where you're going to build.
We're currently, we're not the utility that provides electricity, that's DTE.
I know that.
So we are working with them to make sure that does get rerouted and it doesn't take your power away for more than the period of time to switch.
Okay. And also, are you taking down all my bushes and trees next to my house?
If it's on our property,
I don't think it is, but it kind of goes over.
we're going to attempt to save any landscaping that's yours. So we wouldn't go onto your property without
Well,
permission.
no, well, if you can trim them if you want. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, Paul Catenacci, 821 Miller, so I'm directly across the street. Question you said on the noise, what is the actual ordinance say with regard to, you said you're gonna be under the threshold, but what is the threshold? Like, are we talking like an air conditioner running, or?
Doug Scott, Rowe Professional Services. We're the author of the sound study on that. The noise ordinance requires it be less than 65, I believe, at 60 hertz on that. We basically, as part of the sound study, we went, measured another heater, very similar size, actually almost the same layout as we have here. And basically, on the other side of the fence, we'll be at about 52. So
which is about the equivalent of a refrigerator running.
Okay.
So,
Okay, and that was my main question, is because I figured the most time it's gonna be running is when it's cold at night.
and your,
Yeah, so
your
everybody's
windows
asleep.
shut,
Yeah,
you know, everything
yeah.
like that, yeah.
So, okay, all right, thank you.
Any further questions from the audience? Rose, anyone online?
No one's online.
Okay, thank you. Then at 8:45, the public comment session is over. All right. One last chance for the commissioners to ask any questions they may have.
I do have a question, if no one else does, off the top. I think a question for the applicant related to, sound attenuation. Has that been done on any properties? Forgive my ignorance on the heater. But it sounds like, we used to have a smell, we're not gonna have a smell anymore. It used to be no noise, now the neighbor's gonna have to adjust to the noise of this heater, which I assume has some type of exhaust, but is there an enclosure that could be put over it to further mitigate the sound, or some other measures?
So a lot of that actually will be taken care of by the wall. I mean, that's the thing. If you, there are many different things you can do for sound attenuation and stuff like that. But I mean, when you're looking at taking it down to essentially, because essentially right now it's about 52, and it is the ambient noise level in there. And with the heater running, it'll end up being like 55 or something like that. So it's really not much more than what you have there now, just due to traffic going by, whatever on that. So I'm not sure how much more you would really need us to take it down. I mean, if we're looking at it at being just above the ambient now.
I can help too. If we get to a situation where we read it at the property line and it's over that,
Yeah.
we would require that retro. But Randy looked at it also and felt refrigerator, I mean, it's a good level for right now. Air conditioning units are louder than that, quite frankly, so.
I'll just add to that. I mean, it is meeting the requirements of the ordinance. So requiring, granted, it isn't a special exception, but requiring mitigation beyond the requirements of the ordinance does start to walk a tight line.
Okay. Before we go and make a motion, I want to give the applicant an opportunity, considering the fact that we have only 5 commissioners today. It will require unanimous vote for the motion to pass. If you feel confident that you've got 5 votes, we can proceed. If you're uncomfortable and like to postpone the decision until the next meeting, you have that option.
We'd like to proceed.
All right, then. Okay, then, would any of the commissioners like to make a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the site plan and special exception for 824 Miller as presented with the following conditions: the approval of the alternate screening material as presented, and I believe the removal of the sharp points on the fence.
And the ZBA grant the waiver, which they did, but we'll still put it in there, so.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Very good. Roll call, please.
Kenjuk,
Yes.
Bachman,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Harden,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
I'd like to thank the applicant. You've been very responsive to all the questions and requests we've had over the last 3 months. I think you did a very good job trying to accommodate the community. Thank you for that. All right, let's move on to the considerations. The item 6A. This is consideration for 136 Walnut, site plan review and payment in lieu of parking, and a request to set a public hearing. Is the applicant in the audience? Oh, you don't have to come up right now, just want, okay. All right, then, Ms. Morgan, if you can tell us about the review.
Sure, thank you. So this is the preliminary review and consideration of 136 Walnut, so this doesn't constitute a full site plan review at this time. I know in addition to some things addressed in the letter, there have been some additional concerns brought up, so I will just, before I forget to note, the southern elevation is missing for the plan, as well as annotations of the height of the building. I did get an opportunity to speak with one representative for the engineering firm. I know that another is here this evening, and we did discuss needing to include those moving forward, so they have been made aware of those additional considerations. So this 136 Walnut is proposing retail use on the first floor with 12 upper story apartments, while retail is permitted by right in the central business district zoning district. Upper story apartments are permitted as a special exception only. So do you want to clarify that this will need to be proposed as a special exception review, and the application should be updated to indicate that a special exception is being requested? Dimensional requirements, the site is a total of 0.207 acres. Setbacks of 0 feet are proposed at the front and both side yards, and a setback of 3 feet is proposed at the rear. We also discussed the comment about annotating the property line and setbacks in greater detail on the plans during my conversation with the representative earlier. The proposed structure will be 3 stories with total gross floor area of 21,500 square feet. The first floor being dedicated to retail space and having an area of 3,860 square feet, while the upper floors will be comprised of 12 upper story apartments. As currently proposed, each apartment meets the minimum dwelling unit area, and the remainder of the first floor will be used to provide covered off-street parking. Parking comments, I will leave the parking fee in lieu comments to Mr. Peckins. However, the calculation as currently shown on the plans does not properly reflect gross floor area. So based on the corrected calculation, a total of 37 spaces are required. 17 off-street spaces are included in the plans. This leaves a shortfall of 20 spaces to be accommodated, and the site plan does not clearly indicate if they were seeking payment in lieu. Refuse, the plans note that trash will be internal. We'd like them to clarify the location and plans for trash removal from the site. Because this is in the central business district, specific design standards also apply according to section 2118 architectural guidelines and standards for non-residential and mixed-use buildings and projects. We ask that consideration be given to create more defined entrances, including recessed entrances. While the building materials shown in the renderings appear to include a mixture of brick, siding, and concrete and other materials, and that mixture is appreciated associated with the design standards of the ordinance, but the specific materials being used, the colors, should be called out more explicitly in the plans. The proposed plan should also provide 3 items according to section 2118 1B5, providing 3 items from that specific list. The proposed plans currently provide only 2 raised parapets and canopies, and the plan should be updated to reflect a 3rd design element, which I think will also address some additional comments that we've heard. While plantings are shown along the facade in the landscape plan, they're not shown in the renderings. This is another thing that I did discuss with the engineer. We don't actually require a rendering, as was mentioned in the previous discussion. So, this inconsistency ideally would be corrected, but that rendering is also, technically a bonus as part of the site plan review. So just something to keep in mind as you consider, sufficiency. The blank wall along the east facade or at the alley facade exceeds the allowable blank wall area according to 2118. Access and circulation, Main Street alley along the east property line is one way heading south. We'd like the plans to indicate that so that a better idea of circulation can be indicated on the plans. And also consider the addition of signage at the entrance and exit of the parking area indicating that single direction of traffic flow just to ensure safety. Clarify the area and location of loading and unloading, given that there will be retail space on the first floor. While the photometric plan indicates that there's no light trespass, the lighting fixture detail provided does not appear to be downward facing. It would be allowable if it's only illuminating the building walls and will not shine into the night sky, but that would need to be clarified with some additional details. Also, we'd like to have clarification of the mechanical equipment location. If it's located on the rooftop, a note should be added that it'll be concealed from the view of Walnut and East 2nd Street. So, you know, because these corrections have been highlighted and can be made, we believe that, you know, at this time, it could still be recommended for a public hearing up to the discretion of the Planning Commission. But we have highlighted all of the elements underlined in the letter, in addition to the need for the south-facing facade, as well as those notes about the height of the building. Thanks.
Commissioners, any questions?
Yeah, I have a few.
Mr. Hardin.
Is the maximum height in CBD 35 feet, is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay. And then where is the line of sight discussion that we have when we talk about CBD projects from Main Street, is that part of the ordinance, or is that, where is that found? I was looking through the ordinance, I couldn't really find it, but there, a line of sight from Main Street to make sure that we're not destroying the view from Main Street with adjacent developments. I know we've talked about that in the past, I just don't know where that belongs.
I believe that hasn't actually been adopted yet.
It has. So,
Oh, it has? Okay, sorry.
Yep, that's right. Again, Lori's figured it out.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
It would be from, put your back on the, excuse me, Mr. Chairman Femi, put your back on the east side of Main Street, look over and see. But 202 Walnut's the exact same height, so they passed that. So, but that should be a calculation. Should have a drawing that will show that, that they're not breaking that line of sight.
Yeah, because I'm not sure that they will pass that.
Yeah, they
but
might not because the
yeah.
Tularoo's low, so.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good point.
With that, are there any other requirements, like with the line of sight? I'm gonna have to go look at it, but just while we're sitting here talking about it, are there any other other than?
Just there, it will be
Okay.
eastward looking west, so.
I can make sure we find it, so,
Yeah, we'll have
and
it Sure.
distribute it to you guys, so we all know where to look, in the future.
And I will say they don't punish, people that are behind one-story buildings, because in theory, what they should do is calculate what's allowable on Main Street, that's the maximum, because Tularoo could go up a story, that's the threshold.
Sure,
So-
sure.
So, you know, if you just happen to be behind a one-story building, but we can get all that in a drawing and then explain that, absolutely.
Is there gonna be a parking study provided and updated? Because there's just not gonna be a chance that they're gonna meet their parking requirement on site, so.
Once we know what their deficiency is, absolutely. And again, if I was them, I would look at, am I overbuilding the site? We're gonna look at 202 Walnut. Things were different back then because of parking, but 202 Walnut, I do believe, parked itself under the building with office and commercial. So maybe there's too many units, maybe there's too much retail. So we will absolutely look into that.
And so in that topic, I know there's the opportunity for, I think, employees of businesses to purchase a monthly parking pass. What is the eligibility requirements for that? And does it apply to also people who live in upper floor apartments over Main Street?
Yeah,
Or
that's a very good question. So unfortunately, you can't park overnight in our lots. So, we haven't allowed apartment people to get a pass that would allow them to do that in our public lots. So you would want to have for sure enough parking for whatever it is per unit inside their own site, because we can't let them on the streets or on the public parking. So that's a really good question. But any employee can purchase for $30 a month a parking pass either for the east side surface lots, east side parking structure, west side surface lots, or west side parking structure. So they could meet the pay in lieu of by doing, they still would have to pay for in lieu, but physically, they could have
Sure.
employees park, but the residential will have to be self-parked.
Okay. And then if the plan proceeds as forward as shown, which I'm not convinced it will for a lot of reasons, the turning left into the alley, I think, could be problematic. You're so close to 2nd Street. I could see people wanting to take a shortcut and avoid the one-way and go directly left, which is just going to cause a lot of problems. So how would we address that?
Yeah, I mean, we got it on a couple of those other sites, so it's gotta be really signed, big bright sign. It's unfortunately,
That
let's say
is-
that, yep.
Yeah, that is why we called out the signage as a
Okay.
requirement.
That's all I have for staff.
Okay. Mr. Bachman, any questions?
Nothing further.
Ms. Murphy?
No.
Okay, Ms. Campbell, any questions? All right. I too have some concerns about the parking. I know that typically when we calculate parking in lieu of, we take into consideration all of the parking on one particular side of Main Street. However, this parking structure is literally on the opposite end, and I don't think you can expect, people to necessarily park there and walk all the way down. They may not. So my concern is the surface lots that are immediately adjacent or nearby. So do we know, I know we've looked at this before for other projects, but do we know if those are currently underutilized, or will this development put us like into the upper threshold of usage?
Yeah, we would definitely have our parking enforcement group that does our studies through the police. They would only be looking at relevant lots. We wouldn't be looking at a total west side. So the deck would be excluded from this because it's too far away. In our last parking study that we did for, I believe it was Lucido's, we did do this lot because it's only a block away, and it was underparked for the majority of the day. But we will redo the parking study.
There's a couple more that are pretty close, that are smaller, but behind Give Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So but you're right, we won't stretch it to try to make this work. So.
Okay.
And we would go and do it based off of the proposed potential business hours, just like other parking studies.
Okay. And then taking a look at the landscape plan, I also had the same concerns where the rendering was different than what the actual site plan showed. So basically, like to know, is it going to be in the front of the building or in the rear of the building? Another thing is that it talks about 2 trees that are going to be cut down, and they're labeled as landmark trees. That's not the case. In fact, one is a box elder, which is considered a nuisance tree. So I guess for the applicant, you might get a little relief in that respect. But that should also be updated from my perspective. Also have concerns about irrigation because it is a requirement, but there's just like a little notation in the site plan talking about landscape, but that's it. It's going to be a challenge because you got such a narrow strip between the sidewalk and the building. So I'd like to make sure that's taken care of. So beyond that, they're basically the comments that I would have. All right. If that's the case, then if the applicant can step forward and tell us about what you plan on doing. Your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Jeff Rizzo with Fenn and Associates, 14933 Commercial Drive, Shelby Township. Yes, I wanted to start off by saying, we feel that this is, we guys saw the rendering, it's gonna be a beautiful building. And we feel that we can address, the majority of these comments by McKenna. I can kind of go over them, maybe over some of the main points. One of the things that we were considering doing is to adding an additional manual door. It would be on the north side, near the northeast corner, coming off of 2nd Street there, just to have another access point. I know that was a concern. As far as the building height goes, our architect has been working on that. He's gonna add the height. It's a simple thing to do. And what is the maximum height though, if you don't mind me asking? Is it 35 or?
Well, it's gonna depend on the sight line, so it could be 35.
Okay. Whatever it is, we'll make it work. And as far as the setbacks go, you know, identifying the zero lot line, we have them labeled. I don't really know how much more we can label them, but we can probably put some notation, zero lot line, and just point right at the line. That's not a problem. Add some text. And then we do understand we have to go for the special exception, you know, with our upper level apartments. As far as trash goes, what we planned on doing is just basically going, you know, out in the alley, like curbside pickup in the alley. There's only 12 units. I mean, there are 12 apartments. It's really not much. The one-way traffic, we'll add that. We'll add the arrows to show that we're one-way going south on the public alley. That's not a problem. As far as loading and unloading goes, you know, we feel free that they can just load and unload, you know, right in the facility, whether it's the back or on the north side. There's like a parallel parking space where we can load and unload. The mechanical equipment is going to be inside the building and not on the rooftop. And, you know, we do understand with the parking that we're short. So what we would like to do is to, you know, pay into the public parking program if there's a way to achieve that. And I believe that's about all I have. I can answer some questions. I'm not the architect, but I can try to field some of those questions as well.
If we talk a little bit about the parking, I still have some concerns because just for the residents, since they cannot park overnight, the requirement, I believe, is a total of 18 units for the apartments, but there's only 17 within the building. So no matter what you do, you're going to be short one. So that's going to be something that needs to be addressed. Either going to have to cut back on one of the apartment sizes or do something because you're not going to have any parking outside of the building anywhere nearby. Or you're going to have to tell a tenant that moves in, you're restricted to one, but we're not going to monitor that as the city. Okay, so that still is an open issue. I also have to ask, you may not know this, but is Giuseppe Aluia, who is the builder on this project, is he any relationship to Giovanni Aluia?
Anthony, are they?
Yeah, but Giuseppe Aluia is not the builder.
I understand that. I'm just asking a question.
Oh, yeah. Giuseppe would be his builder.
Okay. I need to disclose the fact that Giovanni lives in my neighborhood, you know, 6 or 7 houses down. However, I, to the best of my knowledge, have never met the man, never spoke to the man. I just want to put that out there so everybody knows. I don't believe that would be considered a conflict of interest, but like I said, I just want to put it out in the open, be full disclosed.
Okay.
Any further comments
Yeah, I
or
have
questions?
a lot more questions.
Go ahead.
Do you know, so are you the developer?
No. So
Okay.
I am the managing member of the company. That
Okay. I just am curious about who the target demographic is here. So I have some questions about the unit size and count as well. So do you know what,
You know,
are these for rent or for sale or what?
they would be for rents.
For rent?
Yes.
I'm a little concerned then that this is a little bit out of touch with probably what the market is looking for in terms of rental size units. And I don't know if you are proposing the sizes you are because you're trying to match the parking requirement with whatever you could get on site, but I would like to see something much closer to the, maybe not the minimum size that's allowed, but something much closer to that. There's not a huge market for 1,600 square foot apartment rentals, especially right downtown. You can go to First Street Lofts just on the way, and they still have 7, I think they have 7 open apartments for lease right now. And I think their challenge is that they're at such high per month costs that one of them's $3,600 a month. I can't even imagine what a 1,600 square foot apartment right downtown is going to have to cost per month for rent. It doesn't seem like it's going to work. I would like to see much smaller units, but then you're double backing on your parking requirement. So I don't want to see this go here just for the sake of building an apartment building where there probably is a demand for rental units. I would say there's more of a demand for smaller, more affordable units. So however we can get, I'm just struggling with the size here. I don't think there's a huge market for 1,200, 1,400, 1,600 square foot units. I just don't think it's going to work. Do you know what the building height is? I'm a little surprised there's a lot of missing information here. I'm struggling with being able to say that this is ready for a public hearing. Do you know what the building height is?
I'm not exactly sure. I'll be honest with you, I do have a plan from the architect. And I'll just tell you the dimension that he's showing, which he can certainly change, because he was just showing 39 foot 8 inches from the ground to the very top.
Oh, yeah, so, yeah, it's not
To the
meeting it
to the very top, so,
already.
We have a lot of work to do on these plans.
yeah.
Yeah.
They won't be back for a few months.
Yeah, so I guess, yeah, my sentiment right now is there is a lot more work to do. This is, in my opinion, not ready for a public hearing. So, I mean, you heard that you need unanimous vote today, so I've said my piece. Thank you.
No problem, thank you.
I guess just to make this clear, as I had mentioned early on in the meeting, it does require unanimous vote for the commissioners to move on to the next step. I think you've heard that there are some doubts from some of the commissioners about, the completeness of the plans and whether it's ready for a public hearing. I'll give you the alternative at this time as to whether or not you want to proceed with the motion. If it's turned down, basically everything goes back to the drawing board and you have to start over again. Otherwise, if you withdraw your request right now, you can go and address many of the issues that have been raised and continue working on the plans and come back at a later time before, we do anything formally. So it's your call.
Postpone or table, right?
Yes.
Yeah, not really withdraw yet. We'll postpone or table.
Okay.
Postpone, table, address some of these comments and come back.
Okay, good. Would anyone like to make a motion then on the postponement, please?
Sure. Mr. Chair, I'll move to postpone consideration of site plan and special exception approval for the property located at 136 Walnut Boulevard until the next available meeting at which the applicant is able to address all the requested information.
Do we have a second, please?
I'll second.
Ms. Murphy, roll call, please.
Kenjuk,
Yes.
Bachman,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Harden,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, item 6B, consideration of 265 East Second Street, site plan review for a site for facade modification and a request for a public hearing. Before we hear the planner's review, is the applicant in the audience? That's you. Okay. Back again. All right, go ahead, Ms. Morgan.
Thank you. So, as you noted, this is a preliminary review, but it is for a site plan modification and facade change. So, at the city's request, we have reviewed the renderings and application provided at this time, a complete up-to-date set of plans, or at least at the time of the letter being written, complete plans had not been submitted. However, the applicant has received site plan and special exception approval from the Planning Commission in August of 2024 for the original plan proposed to the renovation of the existing 5,268 square foot building into an open air event space and the construction of a 2,390 square foot addition with restroom, storage area, and mechanical equipment. The site plan connected the building to the DDA parking lot located to the north. During the site work and demolition, the applicant encountered certain construction challenges on the site necessitating a modification to some aspects of that original approval. which resulted in the first amendment in April of 2025. And then in January of 2026, a second amendment was approved proposing a smaller building addition, a pavilion of 1,388 square feet and a separate storage building. So at this time, a third amendment is needed to review changes to the proposed exterior building materials constituting a major facade change, because during the construction process, the originally proposed facade material was discontinued and the applicant is no longer able to secure the necessary amount. So that does constitute a need for an amendment to the original site plan and their return to Planning Commission, despite the fact that we haven't seen complete final site plans. We did, feel that the rendering indicated a proposed metal panel facade material and versus the newly proposed brick facade at the bottom. Zoning ordinance does not provide specific facade and design standards for the I-1 district. Based on the renderings provided, the brick color will be consistent with the proposed color palette for the project, including other shades of red, and the proposed material will be consistent with materials used in the surrounding area. So while we would like to see those complete plans, we don't necessarily have any issues to raise with what's being shown in the renderings provided.
All righty, commissioners, any questions or comments? Oh,
We will have plans for the next meeting. They will be distributed to me this week, and then Ms. Morgan will be reviewing them.
Okay. I'll start this way. Ms. Campbell, any questions?
No.
Ms. Murphy?
I don't have any questions.
Mr. Bachman?
I suppose the only comment I have is every time this project gets a setback, I like the new plans better.
And Mr. Harden?
No,
I have no other questions myself. Would the applicant like to step up and make any comments? You don't have to.
Oh, okay. Do I just set a public hearing without it? I'll step back.
All right. That's if you, if you sound pretty confident, you got 5 votes here.
I'll bring cookies.
All right. Okay, if, I guess at this point, is there a motion to, to approve the site plan review for the facade?
Set the public hearing for
Yes. And I was going to say that. Site plan review for modification and request to set a public hearing.
I will make the motion
Okay.
to do just that.
Second, please.
Second.
Mr. Harden? Okay, roll call.
Kenjuk,
Yes.
Bachman,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Harden,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
All righty. Okay, next item, 6C. This is a consideration for 419 South Main Street, a request for payment in lieu of parking and a request to set a public hearing. Ms. Morgan, your review.
This is actually me.
Oh, Jeremy, I'm
Yep.
sorry.
So the one before you, 419 South Main, is formerly the Shea Bella Salon. The Randolph Salon that is currently located in the Target parking lot north of town, or south of town, I'm sorry, had purchased either the business or got a lease agreement to move into the current Shea Bella Salon. So it's the same use. They're just going to be updating the layout, adding some more stations, because they think that they don't have a higher volume. So they are requesting a exception of, I believe it's 3 additional spaces, or 3 additional stations, which require 6 additional spaces. When we do parking for salons or similar nature, it's always 2 per station, 1 for the person getting their hair cut, 1 for the person cutting the hair. So that's how we got to 6. So they are taking away the 9 stations and then don't have a total of 12 in the proposed drawings. Yep, so we would do another study if this gets set to public hearing. This is more on the north side of town, right next to, or the DDA, right next to the parking structure, which has historically, in other studies, have been underparked, especially during the daytime when you would imagine you're getting your hair cut. So, but we will update those numbers.
Okay, thank you. You're talking on behalf of the applicant, or is the applicant in the audience? Okay,
I don't believe so.
okay. Okay,
We'll make sure you're there next time, because you could say, put less stations, we're not gonna grade you 6, so they need to be here next time, so we'll let them know.
okay. Commissioners, any final questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, I think just a question. There, in the drawings, there's a mechanical room next to the bath, and that's moved to create more shampoo stations. I was just curious as to if anybody knows where the mechanical equipment's moving.
I do not. I do want to note that we don't count the hair washing stations, because typically you're not sitting around with wet hair. The person getting the haircut would move to the hair washing station, then move back to the chair. So that's why those are not counted in our calculation for more parking.
We will find out where they're moving to.
Yep.
All right. I guess then the question becomes, do we have a motion for the facade modification and parking? Wait, I'm reading the wrong one, I'm sorry. Parking in lieu of, and a request to set a public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to set the public hearing for the next available meeting for 419 South Main Street as presented.
Thank you. Second, please.
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Campbell. Roll call.
Kenjuk,
Yes.
Bachman,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Hardin,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Got a little history, interesting, so back in the day when these things weren't defined very well, we would have counted every washing station, every station, so it got to be ridiculous where you'd have, because in theory, somebody could be washing hair, waiting, so it got to be so exorbitant of parking that about 15 years ago, we relooked at that to say, a defined station, you shouldn't have, like Jeremy said, sitting around with wet hair while you're waiting, but back in the day when people would sit underneath the dryer to get your hair done, you could have all those stations filled at one time, but we modified that video, went through it, we tried to do best practices, so we're comfortable with that, just so you know.
Okay, thank you. All right, item 8, miscellaneous. If we could hear an update from the subcommittee chairs. Mr. Bachman, if you'd go first, please.
Sure. So, thank you, Mr. Chair. Back in at the March Planning Commission regular meeting, we established a special committee to recommend bylaws amendments and an education training program for planning commissioners, new and continuing education. So just a quick brief history, a little repeat from last month's update, and then I'll basically give our final report, which will dissolve the committee. The members were Mayor Debbie Jones, absent Council Member Christian Hauser, who's also the Vice Chairman of the Planning Commission, and Mr. Kenjuk, the Planning Commission Chair, was ex officio member, and I served as the committee chair. Mr. Hauser was kind enough to lend some professional resources to help get the project started, which allowed us to be as efficient as we were. So there's some translation in terms of mapping over the PDF document from 1993 that wasn't readable to a document that was easily managed. And we kind of did a bifurcated approach in terms of examining bylaws and rules of procedure from 7 different communities, including Rochester. So that would be Troy, Rochester Hills, Royal Oak, Lake Orion, and I believe Bloomfield Hills were the other 6. And so Finance Director Anthony Maggio was kind enough to utilize some type of AI agent, I think Chat GPT maybe, to do a comparative analysis of all of those documents. And I did it the old school way of just kind of reading through them all. And Christian and I sort of created these two separate recommendation templates, if you will, or drafts from that work coming into it. And they're about 80% similar. So, you know, we're kind of along the same lines of thinking, and the committee members were able to review those documents ahead of our first meeting. And it allowed us to say, hey, we like what you pulled in here. We don't, or we like this better, and just kind of massage it a little bit. But ultimately, across the 3 meetings, it was a very methodical, meticulous process, tedious, if you will. There were 82 motions that it took in order to come up with a final amendments recommendation draft. We added a couple pages to the overall document. There's 3 additional sections, one on purpose and objectives. We pulled in, I think I failed to mention Novi earlier. We took Novi's, Novi was the only municipality who had a section on training and education. And so we pulled in elements from that to sort of address that requirement of the committee. But basically, I'm going to give just a quick summary for commissioners, because we're going to get a lot more detailed in this when we actually go to review the bylaws. But just to sort of prime you, give you a little teaser for what's to come. As I mentioned, we added that section on purpose and objectives. We added a section to define membership. It was a little thin in our document, so we thought pulling that out would make sense. Part of the reason this was a priority is because the Planning Commission hasn't been really operating in accordance with its bylaws. We've been in conflict with those bylaws, which I think could present risk to the city if the city were undergoing some litigation, and it's just not a good look that you're not following your own processes and procedures. So, you know, we looked at the order of business that comes, you know, through our agenda process and said, okay, we're gonna bring that into, you know, modernize, update the bylaws and rules of procedure to reflect that. The way we do the presentation, the order of presentation, and how, we have McKenna's presentation, the applicant, questions for each in between, so forth. So again, all of that needed to be updated in the document. Those are some key things, some organizational changes, a lot of administrative changes and proper referencing within the document. And we also reduced, or I should say eliminated, some language that was redundant either with the Rochester Code of Ordinances, the Michigan Planning Enabling Act, Zoning Enabling Act, or the Open Meetings Act. That just seemed redundant to the document, clean it up a little bit. So that's just kind of your primer as to what to expect. It'll be more detailed and I think clear as to what changes were made with the documentation that we'll receive, hopefully at the July meeting. So my task, probably this evening, if not first thing tomorrow, will be, now that the minutes are finalized and approved from our meeting last Wednesday, I'll provide Mr. Banda and request through you that City Attorney Mr. Crott review the committee's recommended amendments text and provide his feedback so that the commissioners can see our body of work and understand what concerns or commentary that the city attorney might have related to that. And you'll have a full copy of all the meeting minutes so that you can sort of see the sequential decision-making thought process behind what changes were made. And we may come up with some additional helpful tools and documents.
Can I ask a question? Can Lori should be involved, and McKenna's the experts on this stuff from many communities. Do we want their input, like with how Jeff's gonna get it?
That's up to you.
On that?
We're happy to.
Okay.
We're happy to have McKenna provide input.
Because I think that's what you guys, we'll talk to John, Okay.
And in addition, the folks that were working on the training and onboarding kind of finished their recommendation this morning. So within the next couple of days, notice will be going out to the commissioners seeking their input on the curriculum and on the onboarding process. And in particular, Ms. Campbell and Mr. Bertelich, we'd like you folks to take a close look at it since you're already going through it and it's going to be freshest in your mind. Let us know if we're missing anything. Okay. Mr. Harden?
Yeah, so we are not nearly as far along as the other two subcommittees, but I think for, I wouldn't say good reason, but for different reasons. It's a different task that we're trying to handle, and it's one that takes some sleeping on to fully understand what we're doing and why. And so we met last a few weeks ago and really started going. We met the first time back a month and a half ago and really just talked about the premise of what the subcommittee is going to do and why. And then last meeting, after we'd all had a chance to review Section 2118, which has been the focus of what we're doing right now, I think that's going to be the first key to the other pieces that we're also tackling with the subcommittee. We need to really get that down first in order to kind of unlock the other pieces. So we took a deep dive into 2118 last time and just went line by line. I sent out a marked up version of my comments as a starting point. And I guess this update's really for Nick and Dan and Laura, since everybody else was there for the meeting. But so we use that as a starting point, and a lot of it was just questions. Is this the right number? Is this what we think is appropriate? You know, it was all new to us, so some of it was just a debate. Some of it we ended on, yeah, that seems right, and we discussed it. I think what was really helpful for us and really eye-opening was having visual aids to kind of help the discussion along. Earlier that day, I had walked, like I had been for the last 3 or 4 months, every day. I walk up and down Main Street, one side, then I go from the Paint Creek down to 2nd Street, cross over, and then walk back up to the Paint Creek. And I took some pictures along the way of some of the things that we were going to be discussing in 2118 and why they're relevant. And so that was really helpful to have pulled up on the screen while we were discussing. Like, this is what this means, or this is why this is important. And I think one thing that I think we kind of all had a different idea of what we were going into this subcommittee to do and what the end result was going to be. And I think this first meeting really helped clarify that, and we were all on the same page by the end of it. And it's not, you know, the design standards, it's not to set, you have to do this, every building has to look the same, you have to use these exact materials. I think that's what we all walked away from, saying, wow, if you really look at our downtown, how unique it is. We probably have 40 different building materials on the facades, on what I'll call, like, from 2nd to University, West Alley to East Alley. That's the area that we were really focusing our efforts on. And so it took a turn from, let's restrict this, let's exclude that. How do we work within the framework that we have with this really cool, unique downtown? I think I gave the example, my favorite facade in downtown has glass block on it. I would have never in a million years, until I started walking it for 3 months, thought I would ever say that. That's like universally the most out-of-date building material imaginable, right? So we have this really cool, unique downtown. And realizing that as I took some pictures and started to share it and go through these things, I think we all realized that, and we're tackling this a little bit differently now. We didn't make it all the way through the CBD section. We got about 2/3, 3/4 of the way done. Interestingly enough, and maybe a question for you, Nick, there's an office section in the design standards, and I am curious why, because I understand the need for CBD, and we were all kind of echoing the same comment. But then it's a little peculiar and interesting that we didn't do it for every district, only 01 and 02. So maybe, do you know the backstory of why that was?
I think so. So back in the day, Birchall Arroyo was the planner. Back in the day, Birchall Arroyo did all office buildings in Southfield, basically, and there was no downtown. I think they got hung up on office back then. So it's literally been, 40 years probably. So it's not relevant. So the fact that you guys are looking at what exists today and how you're gonna work that, you can probably, don't worry about that precedent. In fact, now that we don't allow office on the first floor, makes it even better that,
Yeah.
maybe it's to deal with the second floor.
And the
or
01 and
independent
02,
office.
the 01 and 02 is really like, when you look at it, and it even says in that part of 2118, it's west of Main Street up until like
Madison or something?
Up until like Wilcox maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and then north of University to, I can't remember where it stops, but so it's kind of like a secondary thing. But anyway, we didn't get to into that yet. We provided our comments over top of the comments that I did. Lori and McKenna were going to draft some language with the intent of what we wanted to achieve. And then at the next meeting, I think we're going to see some of that, and then we're going to continue through the rest of CBD, and then we're going to tackle 01 and 02 since it's there, but that may be a
Can I say,
different.
for me, it's very sad that what happened at the Luso construction. I think this city, the character of the city, just like coming into Harbor Springs or St. Helen or West Branch, the homes that were converted to offices that still have some character, that brick, the big stones on the bottom, now you get Morgan Stanley. Is that really what we want coming into town? We can't stop it right now, but when you look at 01 and 02, as it just comes down to Woodward, then it gets into commercial after that B1, I think. But we have Downtown Edge 1 and 2 and all that stuff, but it'd be nice to try to take a stand to say, we value saving these homes. When the financial guy came in, he decided to keep the home. And there is some character to that coming into a lot of cities up north. You go in there and those homes, you can tell they're converted offices, but it still feels kind of cool versus, I'm just gonna tear it down and build a brick building up. So I'm glad that you guys are looking at that too, so.
Yeah, and I think we noticed too that right now, the CBD area is bigger than it hopefully will be when city council takes up the new districts and map. But, and the way that we saw it, I think we were all under the same, we were in agreement that it really, in our mind, applies to the hopeful adopted CBD area, because the area right now is much bigger, including the 136 Walnut project. So just a lot of interesting discussions. We're meeting again. I don't know that we've finalized the time yet, which we should do before we go, but on June 16th will be our next meeting, so we'll have more to discuss after that. What I would say to everybody, Dan, Laura, Nick, is take a slow walk through town, very intentionally, with nowhere to go. You're not, I have 10 minutes to walk to somewhere. And what I've done is 2 laps around town. So I'll walk on the west side of the street and I'll look across the street. And then I'll cross over and I'll look across the street and I'll do it again, but then I'll look on the same side of the street as I'm walking. And just walk slow, very intentional. And I think you'll notice a lot more things than you ever will. We all walk around town. We all have our favorite restaurant to go to and favorite store and salon, whatever. But when you're really paying attention to these things, it's very different. So in anticipation of rolling this out to everybody, I would just say maybe a homework assignment. If you could do that a time or two, I think you would learn a lot from it. So when we're presenting this to everybody, it makes more sense. So.
And I would suggest, we did this before. Once you get your feet set, we do a walking tour with the Planning Commission. We call it a public meeting.
Yeah, and
we go do exactly what you said together, because I think everybody will be amazed. I've done it many times, so you're amazed how many different looks there are. And Pashko, gosh, he always tried to respect the past, but he made it modern, right? So he was trying to, the elevator's a great site. There's portions of the elevator, the new, condos or apartments, I'm sorry, that Masheri's building, of the Mills, of the Opera House, and Lytle's. So they tried to do that, and I think things like that, we've been lucky to have developers that have tried to incorporate some of the history, but you're right, it'll, if you really stare at them, it's like, I didn't even know this building looked like, there's a glass.
And I think to that point too, we're gonna have to do the same thing with city council too, because obviously it has to go for them for approval on these changes. So that was something Rich and I were talking about. It's gonna be that's why this is not a 2-meeting subcommittee thing and we're done. If we get this fully accomplished and implemented by the end of this year, I'll be very pleased.
Okay, great.
Any questions for perhaps the city manager? Any?
Jen is a perfect example. Look what you did. Look the accolades you're getting because you didn't change it. You restored it, basically. And there's value for that financially too, right? There could be incentives for taxes and stuff. So, yeah, no, that's great work.
I do have one. Any updates on the brownstones?
The Greg Schneider's. So I believe one for sale sign came down last week. So he told me, so we called him and said, you can't keep it like it is anymore. My dog groomer's across the street. Every time I go in there, she's yelling at me. So I was like, I can't take that anymore. So he's going to grade the entire site with new topsoil, irrigation, make it a park for right now. He said once he sold 2 more units, that would kick in building the last 3 sets of 2. but he sold one. So I'm gonna suspect this whole summer and over the winter, it's going to stay like it is, but green space, we told him you can't have your dumpster enclosure and a dumpster and the bricks and the rocks. He took down the for sale signs, all of them basically, are the broker signs, so, Greg's cognizant of the fact that it's been a long time. So make it look green, put a nice little wrought iron fence around it for right now until you decide to build, but it can't stay like it is anymore.
Somebody was using it as a parking lot this weekend. There were a couple pickup trucks parked on there.
He has a lot of contractors doing the one unit that they sold, so it could be them.
Okay.
So at least he paved the alley finally for the tenants that are in there now, so he was pretty apologetic, so.
Okay. All right, any final public comment from the audience?
Hello, Lauren Coleman, 337 Griggs. I neglected to ask when I was up here last, we had another neighbor that submitted a note to a few members, but not to the entire planning commission, Andy and Dawn. Did that get distributed to everyone? I didn't see it in the packet either.
No, I didn't get it, so.
Oh, okay, they addressed it to you. I will make sure then, Jeremy, that you get it.
Yes,
So that it
if
can be included.
Yeah, it wasn't,
Okay.
it wasn't given
I
to me.
think Nick was included on the, okay, I'm glad I asked.
If they get it to Jeremy, then we'll get it in the packet.
Okay, perfect. The second question I had was on the list of questions that you were gonna be giving the applicants to fill out. Did the garage door question make it on your list? And if it didn't, could it please?
Yeah, so we're gonna AI the minutes, and we're gonna do
Okay.
them all, so that's the best tool right there.
Fantastic.
We won't miss one, because those are great questions, they're very clear,
Yeah.
so they heard them, so we
Okay.
wanna make sure they get them in writing, so.
Okay.
And I have the other letter that was.
Yes, I knew she was handing you that one. I just didn't know if you had the other one. And if you didn't,
You can email it to me.
Yeah, we'll get it to them.
okay. All right, I just want to make sure everybody had a chance to see it. Okay, thank you.
Scott?
Uh, 136 Walnut Street. Scott Beaton, 655 Bollinger Street, Rochester Hills. Please forget. Neighborhood does abut immediately to your city though, so. 136 Walnut Street, I didn't hear the word aesthetics come up this evening. There are two rules of thumb for aesthetics. Great to have a designer on your board now. One is beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and another one is beauty in people who went to college and high school and 40 years in the advertising business and got Clios and learned all that kind of stuff when it comes to beauty. You heard him tonight. My building looks gorgeous because there's beauty in the eye of the beholder. You can look at the Gordie Howe Bridge and say, wow, that bridge is gorgeous. Beauty is in the eye of that beholder. You can look at the Marathon plant that, makes gasoline and be into that kind of industrial architecture and say, that looks pretty. So you're gonna hopefully maybe want to address 136 Walnut Street because just only in my professional opinion, which is no better than yours or yours or yours or yours or Nick's, you're gonna have to address that building that's been presented. In my opinion, it's not pretty. I've seen it in Royal Oak, I've seen it in Ferndale, I've seen it everywhere. It's not in character of what I believe gorgeous Rochester is. But then you're also gonna have to look at it, in all fairness, it's not ugly either. It's not an ugly building. And the artistic time it took to make the gigantic parapets that are at the top of the building, I mean, that's someone's dream. I mean, that's someone's artistic dream. And to trounce on that, it's gonna be tough, because I don't like trouncing on other people's creativity. But I think maybe there's a way to try to focus on what that end product might be that would be more in character with the city of Rochester. The building across the street is stunning. It's a 3-story building with a parking garage on the first floor, and it's absolutely stunning. The granary the care that he took to look at all, like you said, all those building facades of downtown Rochester, and then incorporate that look into the granary is stunning. And that corner to me is precious. It's a very precious corner on Walnut Street. And I really feel that if there's any way we don't have to put Royal Oak there, I think we're going to be a heck of a lot happier as a community. There are currently 75 comments on some social media sites that absolutely hate that picture, absolutely hate that building. I mean, the comments are rough. The last note I want to make too is we have yet to see, Nick, we have yet to see what that building's going to look like on the south side. Because we're looking at a wall that's going to be 35 feet tall, 200 feet long, with nothing on it. A big, gigantic wall next to that really pretty office building. So how's that wall going to fit into context with the city? How's that wall going to look like when you drive up Walnut Street? It's going to be, you know, I mean, I hate to be throw my arms in the air. That's going to be, you know, quite a sight. And I don't think it's going to be quite a pretty sight, so.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, so I will tell you that the record of this planning commission, I'm going to use the Moon River Soap Company. They're not going to stand for Royal Oak or Ferndale. I'll predict that the granary did not look like the granary. Dominic Triggai is a great architect. He came in pretty good. This planning commission tweaked it hard. That was a special project. City council tweaked it hard. This is still a special exception for upper story apartments. It opens the door for 2108, quite frankly. So the more we have some tools we can fall back on and say, when we first met with him, I will tell you, it was real simple. That's Joey LaChurco's uncle. Just build 202 Walnut. If we can't stop you, build what's across the street, a little bit smaller, park it, and it's gonna be hard for us to say no. That doesn't look anything like it. So I think there's gonna be heavy scrutiny from this planning commission. I'm just speaking from, and staff, that about compatibility, because we don't use 2108 to our advantage right now, but we can. So I don't think it's gonna look anything like that when it's done, personally.
I believe you, and
I hope I'm right.
last but not least, as I witnessed your first public hearing this evening, and the way you communicated with your residents, and the way the applicant communicated back with the residents in your planning commission, it's a whole different world than Rochester Hills. You go to Rochester Hills public hearings, and you have a room full of residents. They talk to the planning commission. The planning commission looks at the applicant and says, "Oh, your thing looks great." Completely ignores anything that's out in the audience, and then votes yes. I mean, it's the care this city takes with its planning commission, its community, the way it's run. I swear, folks, it's night and day. It's absolutely night and day. Rochester is a wonderful town, got a wonderful city council. It's got the best city manager in the world, and it's got a great planning commission. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Rose, anyone online?
No one's online.
Okay, with that,
Something last miscellaneous, go by Solaronics. It's
Yeah,
just
they tore it down.
about Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they've been
It's
recycling
crazy.
a lot, that's why it's taking a little longer, but they're breaking into different parts. Last piece to come down is the front, and the skate park is done, but not the entranceway, so that's gonna take about another 45 days, so.
That fast?
There's kids out there skating, and we're kinda gonna tell them stop for right now. The skate park's done, but you have to walk across grass to get to it, so that's not the finished project, so. Just so you wanna take a look over there.
it is now 9:48, and this meeting is adjourned.